All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the State of Rhode Island Coastal Resources Management Council's Rights of Way Subcommittee meeting to order. Let the record reflect the subcommittee members that are present this evening. I think we have a new speaker system. Is this, Brian, this is new, correct? The speaker system here,
The camera is.
the camera.
That's the camera, the new camera microphone for Zoom.
Okay. How about these speakers? Are they new? Those big ones?
No, we've had those.
Oh, okay. I was gonna welcome the new speakers to help everyone, but. In an effort to make sure everyone hears everything, if you're not hearing something that's being said by us here at the table or the witness, raise your hand. We'll make sure that, we adjust the microphones and the like. So, do you want to give an update as to where we are?
Mr. Chair, if my memory serves, I believe we were introducing, I believe the town was introducing Justin Shea as a witness, and I believe that testimony is going to continue tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, if you will recall, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, William Conley for the town of Westerly. You'll recall we had done what essentially the foundation for Mr. Shea's testimony. I asked that I be allowed to essentially start his testimony that evening, but not finish it because we had scheduling issues with lay witnesses that we wanted to bring in. And so we scheduled to bring them in tonight.
Okay.
So I'd like to at this time go to our first, what I've characterized as lay witnesses as opposed to an expert.
I remember.
Even though you don't qualify experts, I think you understand the meaning of what I'm saying.
That's right. Mr. Chair, I'm okay with that if you are.
Yes, that was my recollection. So you may proceed.
Thank you. So the town of Westerly would ask Pamela Barone Darlin to take the witness stand. Don't trip over the wires. Be really careful.
Here.
Here, okay?
Like hearing is turning, what's them up?
Good evening. I'll have you just take that microphone right there, and if you see the button right here, you should slide it towards the top, and now it's on. So I'll just have you use that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Pamela Barone Delin. Pamela Barone Delin. PAMELA My last name is Delin. DAHLIN.
Thank you, Mr. Conley.
And I apologize to Ms. Delin and the committee for mispronouncing her name. It shows that I violated the first rule of witness preparation, didn't learn how to pronounce her last name properly. So I apologize specifically to you and to all here. Where do you live?
I live in Warwick. Coal Farm Road, 600 Coal Farm Road in Warwick.
And how long have you lived in Warwick?
15, 16, 18 years.
Okay. And are you working?
I work per diem at Kent Hospital.
And what do you do there?
I'm a medical technologist. I work in hematology.
Thank you. I don't mean to ask intrusive questions, but will somewhat relate to the other questions I'm going to ask you later on. But when were you born?
12/20/1954.
Okay, thank you. I want to get right to your testimony, if I may, regarding what you're here to talk to us about tonight. And so I'm going to ask you, are you familiar with a place called Weekapaug within the town of Westerly?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with Weekapaug?
I grew up in an area, I believe it's called Weekapaug Terrace now. It's actually part of Westerly. It's not part of the Weekapaug Beach Association area. It's off to the south.
And do you recall what was your address, what street you lived on, and everything
I
like
lived
that?
at 42 42 Governor Avenue.
And for how long did you live at 42 Governor Avenue? From what, if I may rephrase the question, remember from what date to what date you lived there?
I think it was the 25th of December, 1954 to sometime in maybe 1976,
Okay, so
78,
somewhere 25 plus years.
about that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay. Now you just explained that where that is, it's in a area locally identified as Weequahic Terrace, but now within the Weequahic Fire District. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
Do you have any idea what the distance is between Weequahic Terrace and where the Weequahic Fire District would be located?
It's maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles.
Now, did you have occasion during those 25 plus years to go from Governor Ave and Weequahic Terrace to any areas within the Weequahic Fire District?
Yes, I did.
And why?
Why? When I was young, I went with my parents. My father would fish at a place called the Clump.
Excuse me, the clump?
Clump.
Okay.
C-L-U-M-P. Clump of rocks on the shore. And then we would just go down there and wander the beach.
Okay, so you would travel there, you said, with your sisters and friends?
My sister, my mother, my father, and
Mom
then
and
my
dad?
friends.
Okay.
You know,
So did I understand you say your father would, or your dad would go to fish at the Clump?
yes,
And in response to a question, you identified the Clump as some rocks on the shoreline, is that right?
that's correct.
And where was that clump of rocks located? Can you explain to us where your father would go?
To the west of where the Spring Avenue extension is and to the east of Spray Rock.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some
I'm not
questions.
sure.
I apologize. Please finish it.
That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some additional questions about what you just said about Weequahic, and Weequahic, the Spring Avenue extension, in a few moments, but I want to just sort of ask some other questions before I talk to you about that. Okay, great. So during those period of years that you just told us about, you were a full-time resident of the town of Westerly.
Except for the last few years when I was away at school, but
Okay.
yes,
And what were the few years that you were away at school?
from 72 to 74 maybe.
Okay. And during that time period, did you live all those years at that same address?
Prior to 72, yes.
Yeah, and that's, okay. So when you talked to us about traveling to the Weequahic Fire District, you described the clumps of the beach area that you'd go with your mom and dad and sisters. How would you get there?
When I was young, I went with my parents.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I would ride my bike or drive a car, either my parents or my own. I'll walk. Actually, I could walk it.
I'm sorry?
I could actually walk that distance.
Yeah. Probably still could, right?
Maybe.
Okay, all right. So, by the way, what's your mother's name?
Beverly, Barone.
Is your mom still living?
She's 100 and yes, she's still living.
100 years old. Oh, congratulations to her.
Thank you.
And during the time that you were going to the beach in the clump with your mom and dad, did your mom have a job? Do you remember?
She had several at the time, yes.
Okay, can you tell me what they are?
Objection relevancy.
Well, if she can tell you what the job is, then you'll know why it's relevant.
You can answer.
the first job I remember her having, she worked for an insurance company, then she worked at a gift shop at Dunn's Corners. And the last job I remember her having was working for Charles Buffum Realty.
Okay, Charles Buffum Realty. Can you tell us what Charles Buffum Realty is?
So real estate company that was out of Westerly. And he did rentals and he did sales of homes in the area. What else?
So, your mom, as a result of being a Buffum secretary, had a lot of familiarity with real estate in Westerly
Westerly.
And- and Weekapaug as well.
Yes.
So when you would go with your mom and dad to the beach, as you refer to the beach, can you describe the beach to us? Where are you all going?
We would go to several beaches. Are we talking just about the Spring Avenue area or
Well, we are
Yeah,
going to talk about
okay.
that, but sure, you can tell us all the beaches you went to.
all the beaches I went to?
No,
In Westerly?
Yeah.
I could tell you all those beaches,
but
all those right of ways and beaches and
Yeah.
state beaches and beaches that were private.
okay. Can I ask you to focus on, you've used the term Spring Avenue Extension a few times, and you talked about the clump a few times. So, can I ask you to focus on that so I can ask you a few questions about that? Thank you. So can you describe that particular beach to the committee, please?
That beach, the beach itself, the entryway to
All of it.
all of it.
Describe it all.
Let's go backwards. The beach was long and beautiful and empty down at the end. And you could just wander forever. The other side had the rocks and clump. And it was a little bit more difficult to walk on. There was an area to park that was right in front of the path that we would take to the beach. We would either park there, or I actually have memories of parking along the side of the road, along the bay or pond. Then in the center of a road, there was a triangle that we would park in. So there's quite a bit of parking there. And then we would just walk down the path.
A few minutes ago, when we started our conversation, you would reference the Spring Avenue extension and the spray, you use the word spray rock area. Can you explain to the panel when you refer to this Spring Avenue extension, the spray rock area, exactly what you're talking about?
Spray rock area is something that we would call split rock when I was younger. And it's a pullover right along the shore. You remember the name, is it night? The name of the road, I'm not sure. But it's a pullover and it's just where the area where the road is closest to the shore. And then it would loop back in, and there were a few houses on the right-hand side, and then you curve around again. This is heading eastward. And that's the area that I now call Spring Avenue Extension. When I was younger, it was just the beach.
Well, are you familiar with the term the Weekapaug Beach?
The Weekapaug Beach.
Yeah.
You know,
Is that the in beach, Weekapaug Beach? Is that any of those terms resonate with you?
we would have either just said the beach or Weekapaug.
Okay.
You know,
Alright.
never in beach.
So during that period of time that you lived there and you'd say you'd go to this beach and the Spring Avenue extension, the Spray Rock area. How did you access the beach? How did you get to the beach?
Over at the Spray Rock, we would just pull over, park, and then climb down through where the rocks are, and there was a little path there. Over at the other area, we would park and then just head towards the shore and walk down the path that was there.
Okay, when you say you walked down the path that was there, can you tell the committee, describe that path to the committee and what you referred to it as?
Well, it was. Basically, if we were parked perpendicular to the ocean, we'd probably go to the right-hand side. And the entrance would be over that way, and it would just be a typical sand path. It wasn't. It was unkept. It had sand on the bottom and just beach grass on the side.
Okay. So assuming for a moment, the beach is where you and the panel is sitting. Okay. And I'm facing the beach. Okay. Where would the path be located if that table the panel sitting at is the beach, and would it be on the left, the center, the right? Where would it be?
From the parking area, probably to the right, and then kind of curve this way. But there might have been other areas that you could have cut through. But mainly, I think that's what I remember right now.
Okay. And when you use that pathway to get to the beach, you said your dad used to fish off the clump? Did your dad also use that pathway to go fish at the clump?
Yes, he did.
How many times do you think you used it over all those years? How many? Let me strike that. On any given summer during that time that you're talking about, say from, you're not going to remember back to 54, but when your first memories of the area came to be, and say up until you went to college, how many times a year might you use that path to get to the beach and to have your father go fish on the rocks?
That one particular area during the summer. It's 4 weeks, 10 weeks of summer, 10, 20 or more times. 30 to 20, 30 times perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you use that pathway that you described to us, or your family, whoever, your friends, your mom and dad, whoever, when they use that pathway to get to the beach, did you have to show a beach button to use that pathway?
No, we did not.
You know what I mean when I say a beach button?
We did.
Can you tell me what you understand my reference to the beach button is?
Just something round. I'm not sure if it was a button as a pin or a button that hung off a bracelet. I don't know.
Okay.
There's different styles of beach buttons, I guess, and I'm sure it had the name of the beach.
What was the significance of the beach button to you?
Beach button was to access the area that was for the Weekahoe Beach, Weekahoe Fire District residents.
And you just told us about that pathway that's on the right. Was there another access point for the beach button folks?
There was.
And where was that access way?
It was to the east of the path.
So, if, again, using the table as a beach, if the pathway is on my far right, the far left, where would that access for the beach button folks be?
This is the ocean, correct?
Yep.
It would be to the right.
Okay. Did you ever have occasion to use that that access point that the beach button folks used?
I may have used it off season. But during the summertime, I would have used it.
So off season would be just other than the summer.
December, January,
Okay.
because we would go to the beach in the winter.
Now, you talked a little bit about, or you described to us, I should say, you described us a little bit about the parking on those occasions that you went with your family in the car. And where would that parking be in relation to that path that you referred to as the Spring Avenue extension?
It would be right along, parallel to the path, but in the, between the road area and the beach growth.
Excuse me, sort of beach growth or roads?
Growth.
I suppose so.
Now, that pathway that you used, besides your family that you've described to us, you're familiar with it, did friends and other folks in your area also use that pathway to get to the beach?
I would see other people on it, and I would, as I got older, I went with other people down that path.
Did your father ever go fishing with friends so that when he used that pathway, there'd be others using it with him?
Sure, because he would take us, he would meet friends there.
Okay. Meet him out in the rocks?
Yeah.
Okay. Did there come a time when you essentially either stopped going to the beach or stopped using that path to access the beach?
There was,
Can you explain that to me?
sure. It was sometime after we purchased a home in Coventry. And then after that, when my children were born, I found that most of the times that I went to see my parents, I wouldn't be taking my girls to the beach. We would go to see them. Especially when they were young, I wouldn't take them there to use that beach because there are many other more child-friendly beaches.
During that period, as time wore on, did you ever have occasion to notice a fence along anywhere near the pathway that you've described to us?
I don't know when that fence appeared. Because I honestly don't remember it when I was younger.
Okay, when you say that fence, can you tell me what you're
There's a
talking
fence
about?
that is parallel to the shoreline, close to the parking area.
During the time that you were using that pathway along with your family, did anybody ever try to stop you from using that pathway until you couldn't access the beach or the rock from there?
No. We couldn't park further when there was someone monitoring the beach button area. We couldn't park down past where the person was set up. And we wouldn't go onto the boardwalk that was there, or the path before the boardwalk. I don't mean this path, I knew before there was a boardwalk, it was just the path.
Yeah.
But nobody ever stopped any parking in any of the other areas or entering the beach down that path.
Okay, yeah, understand the parking, but I think you answered my question, which is nobody stopped you. You never saw anybody preventing anybody from using that pathway. Is that right?
Correct.
Hi, just a moment, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Attorney Farside, you have any questions for the witness?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Baldwin. How are you today?
Pine Beach.
Ms. Darlene, am I saying the name correctly?
If you'd like to say it that way, that's fine. I believe that's a Canadian pronunciation.
How do you pronounce it?
I say Dolly.
Darlene, thank you. Okay, you remember, well, you remember testifying that you didn't actually go to the beach in Weekapaug during daylight hours in the summertime at your deposition?
I did, but then I corrected it after I thought about the fact that I remember seeing flip-flops and things at the end of the Weekapaug Beach boardwalk. And the fact that we would have parked in the center of the road because the other area was full. So I can't say I didn't go during the daylight hours.
Okay, so your sworn testimony in February 2024 then is different than your testimony today, correct?
I think at the later part of that testimony, I did mention that I must have gone during the daylight hours because there were flip-flops there. There were things, personal things at the end of their boardwalk.
Before you came to testify tonight, did you meet with or have a conversation with Attorney Conley or Attorney Rubin?
Do you mean today? Do you mean?
At any point?
Yes, I did.
And when did that occur?
It's in February. I'm not positive.
In February of
It
2026?
was in 2026, yes.
And during that meeting, was it Attorney Conley or was it Attorney Rubin?
Connolly, Attorney Connolly.
And was anybody else present at that meeting?
Yes.
Who else was present?
Sarah,
Ms. O'Toole?
yes, so too.
Anybody else?
No,
And how long did that meeting last?
half hour maybe at the most.
And at that meeting, was there any discussion about your testimony from your February 2024 deposition?
We talked a lot about what to expect and just to tell what I could remember. It's the main focus.
Were there any points of emphasis given to you by Attorney Conley or Attorney O'Toole?
What's an emphasis like? I'm not sure what you mean.
Statements of fact to recall.
Facts to recall? I don't think so.
And do you remember specifically whether they reviewed your deposition testimony with you?
No, I don't think they did. They reviewed it.
Now, in your February 2024 deposition, you were asked, did you go to this beach with folks who had beach buttons? Your answer was, I did not. Did you go on this beach during the months of July or August between the hours of 9 to 5 p.m.? The answer was, I would say not between 9 and 4. I don't know about 4 to 5, but I didn't go during daylight hours in the summertime.
Correct, and then we talked about it later, and I tried to correct myself. I thought that as I thought that perhaps it was during the day because of the parking situation and because I saw the personal items. I think it's further on in the testimony.
Have you reviewed that deposition testimony before today?
Have I looked at it?
Yes.
I did say it, yes.
Did you read it?
Mhm.
And when did you read it?
A while back. I'm not sure exactly where it was.
Okay. When you were during your youth, you visited a lot of beaches in Westerly, correct?
Yes, I did.
Including Spray Rock Overlook, correct?
Yes,
Fenway Beach?
which is legal park property, yes.
And how did you access Fenway Beach?
At that time, I probably pulled my bike over to the side of the road and walked down through the path,
Onto Fenway Beach.
Fenway Beach.
Did they require beach buttons for access at that time?
I don't remember.
Or were your visits to Fenway Beach also during the off-season?
I honestly don't remember because I didn't go that often to that beach because I know it was part of the legal.
What about Dunes Beach?
Yes, I went to the Dunes Beach.
What about the beach next to the Seaside Club?
Yes, I went to that one also.
Beaches at the Squamican?
Yes,
Beaches by the western end of Atlantic Avenue?
yes,
Beaches in Watch Hill?
yes,
Napatry Point?
yes.
Now, it's been a long time since you claim to have walked on what you call the Spring Avenue extension, almost 40 years, correct?
A long time since I have walked on
Has it been approximately 40 years since you walked on what you call the Spring Avenue extension?
it. No, I probably have. Oh, yes, the string, yes.
Now, you don't recall actually seeing fishermen walking off or on the beach at Weekapaug, correct?
Oh. Oh.
I honestly can't remember if I have ever seen, not seen. I did walk it with my father who was fishing.
Now, you recall Spring Avenue extension being narrow enough that it might be tough for two people to walk side by side down it, correct?
It's possible. It's not, it was, I don't remember it being a neat path. Like it was trimmed the exact same width, whole area. I don't remember that.
It was not trimmed the same width the whole way down. Is that what your testimony
I'm
is?
saying it wasn't kept as a trimmed back,
Understood.
so it probably was different widths as you walk down a path.
Difficult for two people to walk side by side down it?
I don't remember.
In your deposition testimony, 2024, you were asked, could you approximate how wide this pathway was? Was it a foot wide? Was it 2 feet wide? Do you recall? Your answer was, I don't recall. I don't think more than two people could stand next to each other and walk down it.
That's true.
Great. Now, you don't recall seeing a fence across Spring Avenue Extension until after your children were born, correct?
That's true.
And your children were born in 1986 and 1990?
Yes,
And you previously testified that you don't recall seeing the fence at all, or any kind of fence in the 1960s, correct?
I don't actually remember. If there wasn't a fence that blocked entrance, if there was any portion. I don't remember a fence early on.
And same question about the 1970s. Do you recall seeing any kind of fence in the 1970s?
I don't.
Even what we call a snow fence? Do you know what a snow fence is?
I do know what a snow fence is. I don't remember seeing a snow fence then.
Okay, same question for the 1980s.
No snow fence, no.
And do you recall at your deposition, you were shown email exchanges between yourself, Ms. Contrada, and sometimes Mr. Rubin, Attorney Rubin?
I don't remember what they said, but I do remember.
Do you remember emailing with Ms. Contrada and Mr. Rubin?
I don't remember the means of messages, if they were texts or emails.
Do you remember receiving emails with photos of the Weekapaug Beach area from Attorney Rubin and Ms. Contrada?
Most of them emails, then yes.
Do you remember at your deposition being unable to identify the Spring Avenue extension from the aerial photos in those email exchanges that show that area?
Yes, I do.
And you also could not identify the Spring Avenue extension from other aerial photos shown in your deposition, correct? And when you were asked to mark where the Spring Avenue extension is on some photos in your deposition showing the area, you were unable to do that as well, correct?
When I was asked to mark,
When you were asked to mark the location where the Spring Avenue extension is located on other photos in your deposition showing the Weekapaug Beach area, you were unable to make those markings, correct?
well, I could tell you, I could show the area where it was.
But when you were asked to mark Spring Avenue extension on those photos, you couldn't do so. You recall that?
Well,
So at page 94 of your deposition, you were asked, looking at this image, are you able to identify what appears to be the piece of land we're calling Weekapaug Beach? The answer was yes. Question was, does this image show the pathway you mentioned earlier that you walked on to access Weekapaug Beach? Answer, I'm not positive. Question, okay, if I asked you to mark it with your pencil, would you be able to do that? Answer, I'm not positive. Does that refresh your memory?
it means I'm, positive if I could do it, yes.
And you didn't wind up making that marking, correct?
I don't think I marked anything, yours. Anyone's,
Do you recall those photos that we looked at in your deposition also showing the Weekapaug Fire District boardwalk path? Some of those photos?
I honestly don't remember. I do remember being able to tell something was the Weekapaug boardwalk because it was a crisp, straight line.
It was a clearly defined path, correct?
Defined line, yes, whether it was the sand or the boardwalk itself. I think it was the sand.
Now, by the end of your deposition, you admitted that, quote, I really don't know how my father got there, meaning to Weekapaug Beach. You remember that?
I don't know how he got there when he went by himself. I wouldn't know how he got there.
At your deposition, page 99, line 11, you were asked, how many times do you think you walked on the boardwalk? More or less than a dozen? Your answer was more than a dozen. Question follow-up to that was more or less than 50. Your answer was a lot. I don't know. So then I really don't know how my father got there, do I? I have nothing further for the witness. Thank you.
Attorney Conley, any redirect here?
I have a few questions if I may, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So prior to the deposition that was just referred to, you remember that deposition, right? Okay. Prior to that deposition, did you ever look at the Weekapaug Fire District from the sky before?
No, I haven't.
No. So when you were showed aerial photos of different areas of the Weekapaug Fire District, did they have any residents with any memory at all?
No, I could identify roads, rooftops, but
All right. So at the deposition, you were asked to look at some aerial photographs they'd never seen before, right?
Objection. The testimony was
And-
that she was showing them by Attorney Rubin and Ms. Contrada.
That wasn't a testimony actually, but if he wants to recross on that, he can.
You can answer the question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat it?
Sure. The first time you saw those aerial photographs, right? And before you were shown those aerial photographs, had you ever looked at the Weekapaug Fire District from the sky before?
No,
So you had no prior perspective of what this area would look like from the sky, right?
not really,
Okay.
not with shadow.
And you recall a few moments ago, certain pages of the transcript of your deposition referred to in the cross-examination. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so on page 83, do you recall being asked the question? Okay. And does this reflect what the area looked like when you visited it, say between the 1960s and 1970s? Now, Mr. Prosser was the one asking that question that day, right?
Yes,
All right. And Mr. Farside was the one showing you the aerial photograph at that time, right?
Yeah.
And then you responded once again, the aerial. I never saw it from an aerial view. The beach was probably about the same width. This, I believe, the older house that was there, and you remember pointing to a
Yes.
house, yeah? The house is very familiar. Here is the curve of the road, the fork in the road, and the parking area. Remember that testimony?
Yeah.
So you were pretty descriptive for Mr. Farside when you identified the specific area for the Spring Avenue extension, weren't you?
okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I have a couple more questions for you. I'm sorry. One moment, please. Now, you were also asked some questions by Mr. Farside a few minutes ago about testimony at your deposition about the hours that you went to the beach, right?
Yes,
And remember, you pointed out to Mr. Farside that as the deposition went on, you had actually corrected or at least explained your previous answer. Remember that?
I tried to, yes.
Okay. And remember, I'm gonna call the attention of the committee to page 64. Again, Mr. Farside was the one asking you the questions, right?
Yes,
So he asked you, okay. And did you, the times you parked your car the way you just described to me, did any of those occur during normal beach hours in the summer months? Or is that always outside of the beach hours? Do you remember responding, not, that must have been, now that I mention it, there must have been cars parked in that perpendicular to the ocean area for us to park in the other areas, because that would have been the first choice. So it must have been during the summer hours. And it must have been other people besides Weequahic Park's residents, fire district residents, because they would have parked. There was another area for parking past the boardwalk to the east of the boardwalk area that we didn't park in. Do you remember that?
yes, I do.
You were also asked some other questions about your deposition a few moments ago. And there were other relevant parts of your testimony that I think are important to ask you about. So on page 94, remember Mr. Farside referenced page 94 of your deposition a minute ago? Yeah, okay. Question. Mr. Farside's asking the questions of the deposition, right? Yeah, right. Do you agree that this image, first off, Exhibit 9 has the number 1963 in the bottom left-hand corner? I'm not making any representations as to whether or not this image did in fact come from 1963. Looking at this image, are you able to identify what appears to be the piece of land we're calling Weequahic Beach? And you responded, yes, right?
Yes,
And the question, does this image show the pathway you mentioned earlier that you walked on to access the Weequahic Beach? And you said, I'm not positive, right?
correct.
Okay. If I asked you to mark it with a pencil, would you be able to do that? And you, once again, truthfully said, not positive, right?
Right,
Hmm?
yes,
And then you explain. And remember explaining, I'm not positive because I feel like I'm being swayed by seeing this. I really don't. I've never looked at it from the sky, so I'm not positive. Remember explaining that?
Probably do.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So you'd never seen aerial photos of the area before, right?
No.
Right. Just at the close of your testimony, remember there was some questions about the use of the boardwalk area? Just a few minutes ago?
Yes,
Okay. Um, and on page 99 of your deposition, remember being asked a question? You testified earlier that you yourself walked on the boardwalk, correct? You said, I did.
I do.
No button? How many times do you think you walked on the boardwalk? More or less than a dozen? More than a dozen, you responded, right?
Probably, yes.
Okay. And he said, well, next question, more or less than 50. You responded, a lot. I don't know. So then I really don't know how my father got there, do I? You were talking about the boardwalk, right?
I was talking about him fishing when I wasn't with him. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether he was walking on the boardwalk or
Mhm.
through the path.
Thank you. No further questions.
Attorney Fireside?
On those aerial photos you looked at, you could identify the boardwalk path on those photos, despite you hadn't seen the area from an aerial photo before, correct?
The boardwalk is absolutely straight. And I don't think I could on all of them.
And the path you're describing on Spring Avenue Extension was not straight or maintained, correct?
The path was not, it was not straight. No, and it was maintained by the use, the constant use. The people that used it wore it down so that it was walkable.
How many people would you say used the pathway you're describing that you saw? You physically saw people using it. How many would you say you saw?
I would just be guessing,
Okay.
and I don't think I should be doing that.
And that pathway had no signage in front of it, correct?
No, it didn't have any signage in front of it.
It wasn't marked in any other way, correct?
No, it wasn't marked.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You may step down.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go this way.
Not quite yet, but Mr. Farsighted, or geez, Attorney Conley, will you be calling your next witness?
That's quite a compliment. I appreciate it.
Thank
Kathleen Gray, please.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm gonna swear you in, so I'll have you raise your right hand.
I have some allergies, so I'm like. All right, just leave it for first.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I don't do this every day.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Kathleen, Kathleen Gray, Gray.
Thank you, Ms. Gray, and I'll have you just take that microphone right there. You're gonna need to turn it on with the switch. Perfect, thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Gray.
Good evening.
I'm Bill Conley and I represent the Westerly, town of Westerly. We've met, right?
Yes, we have.
How do we meet?
I got an email or a phone call from Sarah Toole said you wanted to meet with me before I testified. I came to your office, I believe it was in March. And we had a meeting, talked about what to expect from you during this hearing.
How long did that meeting last?
Less than an hour.
Was there anybody else there besides me and Sarah?
Sarah was zoomed in. That was it.
Oh, right, Sarah's from Denver. I apologize, you're right. Can you tell us where you live?
I live at 219 Woodbine Street in Cranston, Rhode Island.
And how long have you lived there?
6 years.
How long?
6 years.
Thank you. And are you employed?
Yes, I am.
What do you do?
I am a specialist in grants and contracts at the University of Rhode Island.
How's that going?
It's good. It's different every day.
Yeah, grant work is pretty tough right now, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Hope you have continued success with that. Are you familiar with a place called Weekapaug in the town of Westerly?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with it?
I grew up in Shelter Harbor.
And can you tell us all what Shelter Harbor is?
Shelter Harbor is a small community on the Quanticontog Pond. Weekapaug is on the Quanticontog Pond as well. And to go to the beach, we would go through the Weekapaug Fire District.
When your parents owned that home in Shelter Harbor, what period of time was that?
They bought the property in 1970 and sold it, oh gosh. I don't remember when they sold it. It was in the 2000s.
So let's go back, if you don't mind, to the 1970s when they first purchased the house at Shelter Harbor, okay? Can you recall how old you were when you first started going to Weekapaug, from Shelter Harbor as you've described it?
I was 5
And how do you remember that? You were 5 years old.
because they bought the place in 1970 and I was born in 1965.
Okay. Now, was that a permanent home? Was it a summer residence, a combination? Can you explain that to us?
At the time they bought it, we lived in Meriden, Connecticut, and they bought it as a summer property. They built it, so at first it was just a lot. And they spent time building the house, and we would sometimes go on the weekends while they built it, sort of camping out. And by 1979, we moved there year round, and we were down to one house.
So in 79, it became a full-time residence for you.
Yes.
Okay. So for a short period of time, I guess from the 70s to 79, it was a summer residence. You would use it as you described, and then it became a full-time residency. And did during all of that time period, I'm going to talk a little more about later on as you got older. That's did you ever go over to the Weekapaug Fire District from Shelter Harbor with your family, with anybody?
We would go to the beach house on weekends, and it would be in the winter, it'd be an off season. And so we would often park in Weekapaug. We didn't want to go down the road to the beach, the dirt road, because it was pretty bad, it's with potholes. So we would park in the Weekapaug lot or in the public parking and go on the beach there at the boardwalk or the sand trap.
So you've just sort of described where you would park and you referred to a sand trail. Can you describe to in a little more detail what that location look like to you when you were that kid going to the beach with your family?
The parking,
Yes, please.
okay, so. You drive in and on the right would be. Some public parking spots. And then you cross over. There'd be the boardwalk of the Weekapaug Fire District, and then there'd be more parking. That was Weekapog's parking lot. And there was a bathhouse and a community center. Or yacht club, it was called a yacht club.
Okay, all right. Now, did you use those facilities with you and your family when you'd go there?
No, we didn't. We would park in Shelter Harbor in the summer, and they were closed in the winter.
Yeah. So when you'd go to the beach, you describe those facilities, the boardwalk and the yacht club. When you would go to Weekapaug with your family, did you use any of those facilities at all?
We didn't use the facilities, but we would use the boardwalk as kids
Okay.
running around.
Okay. Now, did you continue through these years? I just want to sort of identify the period of time that you were going to the beach in Weekapaug. Did you continue to go to the beach in Weekapaug during that whole period of time that you described to us, from the time that the house was purchased? You said you were 5 years old, I think, but up until the time you went to college?
Yes.
And so how long would that have been?
So I went through college. College was 1983 to 1987. And I went and moved out after college, and I had moved out actually my senior year. And but lived in Westerly, so I still went to the beach in Shelter Harbor and Watch Hill, and eventually married someone from Watch Hill, and his family had a little house, and we would go to the beach in Watch Hill.
Okay.
So
Now, you described to us a moment ago where when you went with your family, excuse me, when you were with your family, and where you would park, and you described that setup to us, right? Remember telling me about that a minute ago?
yes,
Okay. Where that parking area was located, when, as you described it to the panel, how would you access the beach from that parking area?
in Weekapaug.
Yes, I'm sorry, in Weekapaug, I
Right,
apologize.
you could access it via the boardwalk, which we did, and this was off season, or any time of the year you could go on the Fisherman's Trail, sand path, that's what we called it. And I do distinctly remember one time, and it was off season, but there had been a big storm and the boardwalk was ravaged by rocks from the storm, and we all used the path then.
Okay.
The fisherman's path to get on the beach.
So I want to make sure I understand what you just explained to me, is that during the off-season, you accessed the beach in what was referred to as, or you had occasion in the off-season to access the beach in what you referred to as the boardwalk.
Correct.
Right. Let's just talk about that off-season access for a moment, okay? Can you describe the boardwalk to us?
It was just a wooden planks, one after the other.
Yeah.
Laid down from the little walkway up from the parking lot straight to the beach.
Now, you also said you walked down what you call Fisherman's Path or the Sand Path?
Right.
Okay. Can you describe that to the committee, please?
It was just a little path. It had dune grass. It was a trail. It was not kept up or anything. It was just from wear and tear. And it was then the seagrass, I remember saying in deposition, it just kind of swirled around.
Yeah.
And would brush against your feet and legs and give me a little chill because ticks, but.
Yeah. Um. Now, where was that fisherman's path located in relation to the boardwalk that you just described to us?
So. If you went, I'm not the best person with directions. Now, if you went to Shelter Harbor, that would be the wrong way. It was more towards the overlook. So if within the parking spaces, so it was to the right, if you were facing the beach, it was to the right end of the parking spaces for the public.
Okay, and it being the fisherman's, you refer to as a fisherman's trail.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, why do you refer to it as the fisherman's trail?
When I was little, I noticed whatever, that it just seemed odd to me that there was a boardwalk and there was the path and we saw the fishermen going on it, but and I remember asking my dad too, like, why are there two ways onto the beach? Why don't the fishermen use that? And he said, well, that's the fisherman's path.
And so you came to call it the fisherman's path as a
Yes,
result of that conversation with your dad?
yes.
Objection, hearsay.
Your objections noted.
Okay.
So let's just talk about, if I may, so you can focus my questions. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the boardwalk and the fisherman's path to you, okay? And we talked about off-season a moment ago, how you would on occasion access the beach off-season on the boardwalk. Remember that?
Yes.
How about on-season and just so we're focusing on the right time period, when I say on-season, what would you call on-season?
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Okay. So on season, was your access to that boardwalk, was there an impediment to you accessing the boardwalk on season?
Once we crossed over basically into the parking and into Shelter Harbor, we could use the boardwalk as much as we liked. I remember being a kid running around, and if we wanted to run up the boardwalk or run down it to get faster back to the parking lot or to Shelter Harbor, we could. It was in the 1980s that the beach buttons came into play, where you really couldn't use the boardwalk, and we could park without a beach
Wow.
button.
So originally you could access it from the boardwalk, and in the 80s you had to have a button?
Correct.
How'd you get a button? You know?
The fire districts would pass them out. Shelter Harbor had beach buttons too. We all got them at the same time.
Got it. So is that so during season then you would use the fisherman's path to get on the beach, is that right?
Yes.
Objection, leading.
Yeah, it was a leading question, I agree.
Okay. Yeah. We can strike that and then you want to rephrase.
Sure. Once the beach buttons went into effect for the boardwalk, how did you get access to that beach during the season?
Well, during the season, you could park in the public parking area and you could walk up. And there were times that I did walk up that path. Or you could just go park in Shelter Harbor and get on the beach and walk down to Westerly.
I want to talk about the fisherman's path for a moment. Okay. Did you ever access the beach on Fisherman's Path?
Yes.
And who else? Anybody else besides you access that you know, personal knowledge, access the beach on Fisherman's Path with you?
My family members, my brothers and sisters, definitely.
And over the years on season, when you were going to the beach, how often would your family, use Fisherman's Path to access the beach?
We wouldn't really use it much during on season. sometimes my friends and I might go to the beach for an early walk and then we might park there and just take a little walk on the beach. But for on season, the family would park in Shelter Harbor.
Okay. So on what occasions then, when you identified Fisherman's Path to us, on what occasions would you use Fisherman's Path to access the beach?
Well, I have one distinct memory of racing my brother at the path. So I had, we just decided, I was like, I wonder which is faster to get to the beach. 10 years old, you have these ideas.
Yeah.
And so my brother took the boardwalk. I thought I beat him by running up the sand path, and I didn't, because I didn't think of the traction that I wouldn't have in the sand. So that's one definite memory I have of using that sand trap.
All right, so you have that very specific memory.
Yes.
And do you have any other memories of having occasion to use the Fisherman's Path?
I just remember going with my girlfriend to the beach to take a walk in the morning, parking there.
Okay. And did you do it through that whole period of time that you lived in Shelter Harbor?
Yes.
Now, was there if you know, right, was there anyone sort of checking for beach buttons for access to the beach in the boardwalk area?
I believe it was 1982, the beach buttons had come into place. So on season, there was a parking attendant who also checked for the beach buttons to use the boardwalk, so you couldn't if you didn't have your button.
Okay. Now, when you were using the Fisherman's Path on those occasions that you described to us, was there anybody at the Fisherman's Path impeding your access to the beach in any way?
No.
Nobody on the Fisherman's Path asking you for a button?
No.
Now, I guess now that I think about it, you've referred it to as the beach, and I've referred it to the beach, and we talked to access to the beach from the boardwalk and from the Fisherman's Path. But was there any other name for what we've been referring to as the beach that you recall when you were growing up? Because there are lots of beaches there. How did you identify this one?
Weekapaug. We just called it Weekapaug.
Now, over that period of time, let's say the 70s to the 80s, before you went to college, how regularly did you use over those years the Fisherman's Path that you've described to us?
It wasn't so much regular because we had the Shelter Harbor access, but I would say, maybe 5 times a year.
And in each of those occasions, you had free access to the beach through that Fisherman's Path, right?
Yes.
Now you've described you and your family's use of the Fisherman's Path. Did you ever have occasion to see anybody else use the path? I'm talking about the Fisherman's Path, I'm sorry.
The fishermen would use the path. So
Hence the name?
yeah.
Yeah. And when you say fishermen use the path, can you just describe, for the sake of completeness, can you describe to us what you saw with fishermen using the path?
Uh, saw men coming up on the beach carrying fishing rods and white buckets.
And was it, to use a phrase that we did a moment ago, did you have, regular occasions to witness the fishermen using the path?
Yes, when really almost every day at the beach, to be at the beach at Shelter Harbor, we would take a walk down to the rocks. And as a child, my brothers and I would spend hours and hours a day there. So you would see the fishermen coming on to the beach. And sometimes we talk to them.
And when you say the rocks, can you tell us where the rocks are located in relation to the fisherman's path and the beach that we've referred to as the Weekapog Beach?
So as you come up the path, you're gonna hit the rocks. They're really just to the right of the rocks.
And the times that you saw the fishermen as you described it, when you maybe was out in the rocks with your brother, was that all those same years? Was that consistent throughout the years that you've just described to us?
It was consistent even through being a teenager and an adult, of just always wanting to walk to the rocks.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever see anyone preventing the fishermen from accessing the beach and the rocks from the fisherman's path?
No, never.
Come on, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Conway. Attorney Farside?
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Gray. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so your testimony today is that you have specific memories of seeing fishermen walk down what you've called the fisherman's path. Do I have that correct?
Yes,
Do you remember being deposed in January 2024?
yes,
You remember being asked a question, then you, sitting here today, don't have a specific memory of seeing a fisherman get out of his or her truck, fisherwoman, and heading towards the beach on this pathway number 3, which you had marked over what you thought was the fisherman's path, correct? You said, I can't definitively say that, no.
I believe that was in reference to the fact that you were referring to the fishermen coming out of the parking lot. And did I see them park in the parking lot? No, I saw them come up onto the beach as a child. I was sitting on the rocks crabbing and saw them come up on the beach off of the sand trap with fisherman's path.
So you saw them come onto the beach from this path, but you never saw them access the path from the roadside. Do I have that correct?
I believe that's what we discussed, correct?
Okay. Now, your parents own property in the Shelter Harbor Fire District, correct?
Yes,
From approximately 1970 until 2003, right?
yes,
And Shelter Harbor Fire District was next to the Weekapog Fire District, correct?
yes,
It still is, as far as we all know, correct?
yes,
And Shelter Harbor Fire District was just to the east of the Weekapog Fire District, correct? Or do you know?
yes,
And Shelter Harbor did not have its own beach on the ocean, correct?
no, it did have its own beach.
Well, let me rephrase. Shelter Harbor Fire District had permission from the Weekapog Fire District to use a portion of the oceanside beach owned by Weekapog, correct?
I don't know the details of what their agreements were.
Okay. And generally speaking, the Shelter Harbor Beach area on the ocean was about a couple of city blocks down from or to the east of the beach area typically used by Weekapaug. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
Okay. Shelter Harbor had its own parking attendant monitoring its parking area on the Sandy Road, correct?
yes,
And you even served as a parking attendant for Shelter Harbor for a period of time, correct?
yes,
And in your job as a parking attendant for Shelter Harbor Beach parking area, you had to deny access to cars that did not have a parking pass, correct?
correct.
And when that occurred, the car would have to turn around and leave the same way it came in, correct?
Yes,
And you would estimate the Shelter Harbor lot was able to fit about 50 cars, right?
yes,
And on weekends, that lot would be full.
yes,
And once you were in the Shelter Harbor parking lot, Shelter Harbor had its own pathway from that parking lot down to its section of the beach, correct?
correct.
And that pathway was totally separate from the Weekapaug Boardwalk path, correct?
Yes,
And totally separate from this other path that you're calling the Fisherman's Path, correct?
yes,
Now, you recall the boardwalk pathway that led to the Weekapaug section of the beach, correct?
yes,
You testified about it earlier today. And that pathway led from the Weekapaug Bathhouses building all the way down to the beach, correct?
yes,
And when you were a Shelter Harbor resident, you personally used that boardwalk, correct?
I did.
In fact, you used it a lot. Would you agree?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I used it, yeah,
Okay. Well, you testified at your deposition that you used it, quote, a lot.
okay,
And you used it for a variety of reasons, including going down to the beach to meet friends, correct?
yes,
And during that time, you were friends with the Weekapaug guards who sat at the entrance to the boardwalk path, correct?
friendly,
Sure. Friends are friendly, correct?
right,
And as a Shelter Harbor kid running around in your bathing suit with your beach towel, you were more or less allowed to use the Weekapaug boardwalk path to get on and off of the beach as security was lax, correct?
yes,
Now, the Shelter Harbor section of the beach was not marked off as different apart from the Weekapaug section of the beach, correct?
well, it's a different area, so it would be different.
Wasn't marked by flags or ropes or anything like that, correct?
Oh, from the beach, you mean?
Correct.
Correct,
And you had friends who used the Weekapaug section of the beach, correct?
we could go down there and sit if we wanted to.
And that was both before and after the beach buttons came into play, correct?
Yes,
And I'm guessing Weekapaugers would also make their way to the Shelter Harbor section of the beach, correct?
they could, yeah,
So as a Shelter Harbor person, you were never denied access to the Weekapaug boardwalk, correct?
once the, beach buttons came into play, things gradually got more strict. It wasn't immediate, but. So maybe the first summer with the beach buttons, it wasn't so strict, but you. As Shelter Harbor, you would be denied, yeah, eventually.
Were you ever denied access to the Weekapaug boardwalk?
I don't specifically remember. I think I just didn't bother if I was gonna be denied it.
So as a kid from Shelter Harbor, you were more or less welcome on the Weekapaug section of the beach for most relevant times, correct?
Correct,
Even during beach hours in the summer, right?
yes,
Now, the path you say you also walked on as a child is not far from the Weekapaug boardwalk, correct?
correct,
And you thought it was odd that one path to the beach was monitored strictly for access, while another path to the same beach from the same parking lot was not so monitored, correct?
Yes,
Now, the path you say you walked on, you said you thought fishermen used the same path, correct?
yes,
And you said you saw fishermen you saw fishermen on in beach or Weekapaug Beach, correct?
yes.
And you would see them arriving at the beach around 4 or 5 p.m., correct?
Yeah, 3, 4, later in the afternoon. Yeah,
Okay. Or early in the morning?
I wasn't, how early, you know? I wasn't there. But, yeah, I mean, they could be there all day. I wouldn't.
The previous testimony was, but they would also be there in the morning when I was working the parking lot and I had to be there at 10 o'clock. A lot of times it would be full because they'd come out early in the morning and fish.
Yes, I would drive, when I drove in to my parking attendant job, I do distinctly remember seeing trucks with, and specifically a light blue one even, with fishing rods hanging out the back. So there were trucks there
In the public spaces.
in the public parking, yes. So I didn't see, yeah.
Now, you didn't strike up relationships with these fishermen, correct?
No, I mean, I would talk to them. You always want to run over and go, what you catching? Are you catching anything? And there was one fisherman I remember asking him what he caught, and he said he had caught porgies. So that's when I found out what a porgy was.
Now, you don't know whether those fishermen you saw were from Weekapaug or not, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't know whether those fishermen were allowed to be on the Weekapaug Beach until your deposition, correct?
I would say growing up, I thought they could be on the beach because they were there.
So sitting here today, you don't have a definitive memory of a non-Weekapaug person or non-Shelter Harbor person, such as yourself, having actually walked on this fisherman's path to the beach, correct?
Objection, there's no foundation for her checking residences of fishermen. Or foundation for that, she knew everybody in those two areas so that she could identify them. That's like,
I'm gonna let Attorney Farside continue.
Thank you.
may we have the question read back, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
So sitting here today, you don't have a definitive memory of not a non-Weekapaug person or non-Shelter Harbor person, such as yourself, having actually walked on this fisherman's path to the beach, correct?
Correct. I wouldn't know.
Thank you. One moment, please. I'd like to show the witness Westerly Mark District Exhibit 13, which has the title at the top, 1974 Krabach Collection.
Excuse me. Because it's a bar.
Krabach.
I have, thank you, Joe. Thank you.
District Exhibit 13.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray, do you remember seeing this photo before the deposition?
I'm just gonna go with, I don't specifically remember this photo. There are a lot of photos, but so. Good to see them.
Okay, and on this photo, you're able to locate the Weekapaug bathhouses, correct?
Yes,
And you're able to locate the Weekapaug boardwalk path to the beach, correct?
yes.
But you aren't exactly sure where the fisherman's path you say you used was, correct?
No, I was clear about where it was. You were asking me and showing me a bunch of blurry pictures of where those point out paths. And I don't know if you recall about the having the deposition start at 10 a.m. and then about 1:46 p.m. I pointed out another possible path and was saying, you know, I showed you the path, the fisherman's path, where that was, and that was what I was there to talk to you about. I was just trying to be compliant with you with the earlier pictures.
So my question is, on this photograph, does it show the boardwalk path that leads from the bathhouses to the beach?
It shows the boardwalk path, yes.
Does it show the fisherman's path?
I don't see it from this view.
Put that exhibit aside, please. Now, you said you don't remember seeing a fence across the path, the fisherman's path you used until the 2000s, correct?
Correct.
And the fisherman's path you say you walked on was not marked by any signs or anything, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you didn't walk on it often because you were scared of ticks and didn't like the sea glass, correct?
That's true.
And you only walked on it just a handful of times, correct?
I would say a few times, yeah, a number of times each summer and in the winter, so.
And you said that the fisherman's path you walked on was less than a foot wide, correct?
Depending on the way the wind was blowing.
At your deposition, you called it a, quote, very primitive sand path. You remember that?
Yeah, I don't exactly remember it, but yes, that was 2 years ago.
And you also called it, quote, nondescript, correct?
Yes,
In fact, if a car was parked in front of it, you wouldn't have seen it, correct?
right,
It wasn't a path that was kept up or maintained in any way, as far as you knew, correct?
correct.
And you couldn't imagine a car or cart being used on that particular path, right?
Did I say that? I said I couldn't imagine our art being used on that path.
Correct.
I said that.
I'll read what you said. Just bear with me. Question, and you couldn't imagine a car or cart being used on that particular path, correct? Your answer was correct.
Oh, you said it, okay. I mean, that's a little different, but I was, yeah,
You agree with me, correct?
I did, I guess, that's what it says.
I think you did. Now, this fisherman's path, do you remember it being next to a house with a, what's known as a gimbrel roof?
And bro,
Yes.
what's again, bro?
Well, I'll withdraw that question. You're not expected to be an expert on roof types. Do you remember there being a house to the west of this so-called fisherman's path?
Yes. There were a number of homes.
How far away from the fisherman's path would you say, could you estimate the closest building home structure was?
I'm gonna go with have a good answer for that. And there have been a couple of houses built since then too.
And your connection to Shelter Harbor and the permission and privileges that you had as being a Shelter Harbor resident gave you access to the Weekapaug beaches that you understood the public didn't have, correct?
What's the question again?
Yeah, I'll rephrase it for you. As a Shelter Harbor resident, you understood that you had privileges to access the Weekapaug beaches that the public, the general public, non-Shelter Harbor, non-Weekapaug people did not have, correct?
I understood I could work on the beach and hang out there. Yeah.
Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Attorney Conley?
I have no questions. Thank you. No
Okay.
further questions.
All done.
Ms. Gray, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Craig.
Thank you.
I'd asked the panel that I might be able to present Susan Carnaccia as next witness being called by Carolyn Contrada. I would need to do some setup. So if I could have if this is a natural time for a break, perhaps.
Sure.
I would also ask if the far end of the council table or the subcommittee table where witnesses have been putting their water bottles and et cetera, if that can be used by the witness to put a couple of pieces of paper that she had, or a binder that she had, rather.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I will take a short break.
Thank you. First,
What that, Mike? Let everyone sit down. All right, we'll be back on the record.
I could give the members each two binders because they come in, they're a set of two, but we're not gonna get to the first one tonight, so I would unburden you by only giving you the first volume, 2 volumes, unless somebody wants both volumes. So I'll hand those out to the subcommittee members.
That's nothing more. I'll pass it down.
Okay.
It's easier.
Good.
Yeah, good.
And when the subcommittee's okay, I would ask Susan Cornacchia to take the stand. And I asked if, I think she asked if she could actually sit at the end of the table, if that's okay.
Yes, it is. And Ms. Cornacchia, I'm going to swear you in now. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Will you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Susan Cornacchia. It's Susan. Cornacchia, Cornacchia.
Thank you.
Mr. Hartman, before we begin this examination, I have to renew an objection, frankly, a motion to strike that we've made twice in the past, and we're told to renew at the hearing, at the time of hearing, and the time has come. The district moved to disqualify Ms. Cornacchia as an expert in this matter and strike her expert reports on May 10th, 2024. Without a decision, the district then renewed its motion on December 4th, 2024. The CRMC then decided, the subcommittee then decided it would rule on the merits of her expert designation upon her being called to testify in that matter. So we once again want to renew our objection on grounds that Ms. Cornacchia does not qualify as an expert in this matter. The areas and subjects at issue in the Spring Avenue extension matter have nothing to do with the expertise an archivist could provide. She's not utilizing her expertise as an archivist here. She also does not contain the relevant knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education to opine as to the significance of the contents within the records or alter or comment upon them, which she's done ad nauseum. Rhode Island courts require that expert witnesses possess special, quote, special knowledge, skill, or information about the subject matter acquired by study, observation, practice, or experience on the matter at hand. Ms. Cornacchia's reports cover subjects outside of her expertise. While Ms. Cornacchia has experience as an archivist and in records management, she attempts here to provide expert opinions on matters suitable for land surveyors, title experts, aerial photographers, cartographers, and the like. But Ms. Cornacchia admitted at her deposition she lacks expertise in each one of these areas. There is no probative value in this testimony because other experts can and should testify to these records. Any other analysis she conducts is no different than anything a layperson without those areas of expertise could do. Ms. Cornacchia even admitted that she gathered these documents for other experts to review. That was from her deposition as well. To the extent Ms. Cornacchia intends to rely on a number of newspaper articles that were disclosed in advance of her testimony, many of these articles were not previously produced in this matter, and Ms. Cornacchia did not opine on them in her purported expert reports. Nevertheless, Rhode Island courts have also held that even properly credentialed expert witnesses cannot simply recite documents without synthesis or analytical opinion, which Ms. Cornacchia does not have in the relevant issues at hand. That's from the U.S. v. Cantegua case, First Circuit, 781 F3D 545, 2015. The Rhode Island Supreme Court in 2009, in re Alexis L. 972 A2D 159, affirmed the trial court's determination that the trial justice correctly excluded a purported expert witness's testimony. There, the witness was an employee of the Women's Center of Rhode Island who was proposed as an expert witness on domestic violence. However, the witness did not confirm whether she had any education, training, or coursework in psychology, psychiatry, or counseling. The witness also did not detail any duties or responsibilities in her profession that granted her expertise in lieu of a formal degree in those fields. The witness also confirmed she had never been qualified as an expert witness before. Thus, the court did not qualify that person as an expert witness, and the Supreme Court upheld that decision as reasonable. The documents provided in these voluminous binders are neither authenticated nor reliable. Evidence Rule 703 states that expert opinions may be based on facts or data in evidence. But Ms. Cornacchia's purported expert reports, many volumes of them, include many documents and photos that are not in evidence and are not admissible. Many were created by Ms. Cornacchia by exerting expertise of title or land surveyors, which again, she does not have. Many other documents disclosed by the proponents in light of Ms. Cornacchia's testimony do not show where they came from and cannot be properly authenticated. Others have text written on top of them, including summaries of the content that are inadmissible hearsay. Many others have additional language or markings, including highlighting and arrows, that are also inadmissible hearsay in Rhode Island. Thus, her purported expert reports and her purported expert testimony are not proper under the Rhode Island Rules of Evidence. Finally, Ms. Cornacchia's expert opinions were not formed from an impartial and professional perspective. Ms. Cornacchia displays bias against fire districts and private beaches. A conflict of interest as a shoreline access activist working with Ms. Contrada and Attorney Rubin from the early stages of the coastal access movement should disqualify her, as evidenced by hundreds of social media posts that demonstrate this, including many included with the district's initial motions. She's called fire districts, once again, the bad actor in March 2023, suggesting that they, quote, steal public rights of ways. She's also stated that fire districts, quote, create private peninsulas that are perfect for nurturing white-collar crime. In Salve Regina College versus Zoning Board of Review, Rhode Island Supreme Court, 1991, the Supreme Court held that the zoning board improperly recognized an expert who was not qualified to give expert testimony where, quote, his opinions were formed not from an impartial and professional perspective, but rather from the perspective of a neighboring property owner who, quote, vehemently opposed the matter proposed before the board. One last point is that Ms. Cornacchia can also not be a fact witness in this case. She's simply not qualified to be an expert in this matter or in any judicial proceeding, but she's also unqualified to be a fact witness. Rhode Island Rule of Evidence 701 says that fact witnesses or lay witnesses must only give opinions, quote, which are rationally based on the perception of the witness. Rule 602 also says that lay witnesses, quote, may not testify to a matter unless, quote, the witness has personal knowledge of the matter. Ms. Cornacchia has not perceived any events relevant to this matter and has no personal knowledge of the items referenced in her expert report or the documents disclosed before her testimony. Ms. Cornacchia evidently found or read some of these documents and is thus only qualified to testify to how she found them. She has no personal knowledge of the contents themselves, how they got there, how they were stored, and her lay testimony is thus not appropriate and not helpful to the subcommittee in any way. For all those reasons and the reasons set forth in the motions to strike filed in 2024, the district requests that Ms. Cornacchia's testimony be stricken and she not be allowed to testify in this manner.
Attorney Rubin, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I would. I think for the third time, this objection is premature because I haven't asked a single question of this witness, nor have I offered any report that the witness might have rendered, nor is it my intention to do so. As a matter of fact, my understanding, and is this mic on, Ryan? Is the mic on? Okay, yes. Thank you. And as a matter of fact, there's been a general understanding that we're not offering expert reports of our respective witnesses. So the objection is in a sense self-defeating because the objection is essentially these documents haven't been authenticated. Well, that's the very reason that Ms. Cornacchia is here. She is the authenticator. That's my nickname for her. She's going to say that where she found these documents and what the nature of the source of these documents are. And we're talking about a lot of ancient documents, which means essentially a document that's more than 20 years old, and under the authentication rule, it has to be kept in a place that it would be if it were authentic, which is essentially a regular place of custody. So I don't understand how you authenticate an ancient document except by having a person go to an archive and find the document. And that doesn't involve expertise.
I see Attorney Conley.
The
Has- yeah.
the town of Westerly joins in with the response to the fire district's objection here as well on all the bases that have just been outlined. And in addition, would move to strike the description of the information being presented by Ms. Kenosha as ad nauseum, and perhaps suggest that the words thorough and comprehensive be substituted for ad nauseum.
Thank you, Attorney Conley. Attorney Farside, will you like to respond to those comments?
Sure, if the retention of a researcher was all that was required to authenticate documents, it would defeat the rules of evidence. So every case involving a contested matter would involve lawyers hiring a researcher to authenticate documents they can't otherwise authenticate. And that just cannot be the way this subcommittee wants to conduct its business.
Attorney Rubin?
It depends whether the case is about history or not. I mean, a typical case might involve an auto accident that took place 3 years ago. And, you know, an archival researcher might not be apt in that case. But we're talking about a subdivision that's been in existence since 1884, certainly since 1920. And there's a lot of historical materials. And I don't see how you authenticate under the ancient documents rule historical materials other than through a researcher. And it's been my experience that title searchers testify, people who are familiar with records testify, and so forth. And by the way, I happen to have a couple of samples of the exhibits that the witness is going to refer to. There are no markings. I was very careful to make sure that the reproductions, in fact, I went through the time and expense of securing new reproductions that wouldn't have markings of any visual type exhibits. On certain textual exhibits, such as newspaper articles, there might be an innocent guidance as to the date and issue of that newspaper.
Attorney Farside, any further comment?
No,
Okay, so this is what we're going to do here. I agree with Attorney Rubin. This is premature. We need to see what's going to happen here. He hasn't asked a single question yet. But on top of that, it's been the standard practice of CRMC to to not qualify witnesses as experts. Their testimony and the backing for that testimony, it all goes to the weight of the evidence presented, and the subcommittee will give due weight depending on, you know, resumes, experience, so on and so forth, on top of just the testimony. So I'm going to allow Attorney Rubin to go forward with this questioning of Ms. Kenosha.
Has the witness been sworn?
Yes, and
Okay.
to add one component there too, if Attorney Farside has further objections to particular evidence that's presented, of course, he's welcome to object at that time.
we're going to have an objection to each and every document they propose to anyone.
Understood.
Ms. Cornacchia, you have a bit of a sore throat tonight.
Yes, I'm apologizing in advance if my voice is a little bit intolerable over time. I can't hit some of the higher notes, so I may speak in a lower register.
Okay. I'm suffering from some Bell's palsy myself, so I might be a little awkward to understand. But if we both try, I'm sure we'll get through this. I see that in addition to the 3-ring binder containing the exhibits that I've distributed to the subcommittee members, you also have another paper with you.
Yes.
Yes, can you describe that and explain what it is?
Yes, so this is a spreadsheet listing of each of the exhibits in sequence and by number that are found in the binder. And what I have added to reference while I'm up here is the citations that I produced for these exhibits.
And when you say citations, what do you mean?
So for example, if there's a photograph that's being displayed, I would cite the source where I obtained that. If it were the Historical Society or a particular digital collection. If it's a book, I would cite the title and publication year and page number.
Are there answers to the questions that you expect that I will ask on that sheet of paper or those sheets of paper?
No.
Okay. I would ask, out of fairness to all concerned, that you signal if you intend to refer to it before you do so. So any person can object. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Cornacchia, can I offer you a lozenge?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. It was courtesy of Sarah O'Toole.
Okay.
Ms. Cornacchia, do you have a connection with the Naval War College in Newport?
Yes, I worked there as a librarian starting in 2011 until 2014. But I can tell you my earlier history.
Please go
as a
ahead.
library. So, when I arrived in Rhode Island in 1990, I had gotten a job as an assistant registrar at the University of Rhode Island. And while I was working there, I completed the library science program. And in 2000, I started working at Wheaton College in Norton, Mass. As a systems librarian and also doing reference and instruction and a whole range of library duties. And in 2007, I started working at the Coast Guard Academy as a research and instruction librarian. And then started working my way through each of the military services. I went to the Naval War College in 2011, and I was their first digital initiatives libriarian.
Did you say you were the first?
I was the first digital initiatives librarian there. And do you want me to speak more about that position?
Yes, if you would.
Okay,
Briefly.
so the Naval War College, of course, educates officers and also some civilians, most with military relationships. And there's a fine library at the Naval War College and also an extensive historical archive. And we were attempting to highlight and make accessible to the public many of the really unique archival resources there. And I brought particular skills to be able to do that. And I have a specialty in library technology as well as this kind of special technology work. And I could tell you about a particular project.
We'll get to that in a moment, but let me ask you about your career after the Naval War College. Why did you leave your service at the Naval War College?
So I actually had an opportunity in 2014 to do an overseas librarian stint for the Army. And I was hired by Army Europe Libraries to go work over in Germany at the Army Europe headquarters for all of the Army libraries in Europe.
And how about the Naval Undersea Warfare Center back in Newport?
So when I came back from Germany, I started a position at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, and I extended into a new specialization, which is tied to librarianship and archival work, and it's work as a records management analyst. And for that, I also had to obtain a certification from the National Archives.
Can you just tell us a teeny bit more about that certification from the National Archives?
Well, it's a required set of courses you take. You actually visit a National Archives location and take these courses. And they prepare you specifically to understand federal records management statutes and implementation of records management in any federal agency, certain aspects of records management, for example, as a risk management practice, and basically how to disseminate records management best practices throughout our organizations.
And I won't ask you for specific details of your work at Naval Undersea Warfare Center because I don't want to intrude on topics of national security. But can you tell us your level of security clearance?
I have a secret clearance.
Okay. And if we can jump back to your work at the Naval War College, can you provide us with a couple of specific concrete examples of your projects?
Well, probably the one that is of the most broad interest is because the Naval War College, at the time I arrived, now had somebody who specialized in digital initiatives work.
That being you?
That being me. I was a new division head, and there had actually been some ongoing interest. We had a number of naval historians and members of the Naval Order who were often around the Naval War College along with our historian faculty. And they had wanted for a long time to get a really fine digital version of the war diary of Admiral Chester Nimitz.
It's for the stenographer, Nimitz.
And so there was an opportunity with me there to take on and sort of coordinate that type of project, to assess what it would take to work with the Naval History and Heritage Center down at the Washington Navy Yard. That's where this document, which is actually multiple volumes, it's a physical set of binders of about 4,000 pages. And that document was considered to be the premier primary source for the study of World War II history in the Pacific Theater. And so it was a big deal for a lot of researchers to see an opportunity to have this actually digitized safely, preserve the originals from handling, and make a digital instance basically available to the world. And so I led this project and coordinated with people in DC, and I had a team at the Naval War College, had to do a lot of analysis of the actual documents and the nature of whether these documents were brittle or would undergo any damage if they were digitized. So we had to find a method of digitizing these that would protect the originals. They were very fragile. We had to get them shipped up to Rhode Island with all the insurance and temperature controls as though they were the Mona Lisa in a special made crate. So they were precious documents, and it was a very exciting project to have the opportunity. And I think at Newport, they felt this was a bit of a feather in their cap to have actually gotten those documents up and know that they would be handled, in good care. And anyway, we completed that entire project over a couple of years.
And has your work on that project been acknowledged by scholars?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. As part of the digitization initiative. I was recognized. They had a major international rollout when it was introduced. And, but I'd say also, if we're talking about a second project, related to that, I mean, anything that we were doing, we tried to frame in terms of the value to the teaching nature of the institution. And so, I had opportunities to actually partner faculty who taught World War II and Pacific Theater, to actually integrate this digitization project with students who I took on, who could pursue individual research aspects of working with a digital instance of this 4,000 plus page Word diary.
And was there another project, if you could briefly, regarding long-term naval records or a study of long-term naval records?
Yeah, I would say in general, we were always involved in assessing the collections that we had, the historical collections that were at the War College. We had the whole collection of records from the torpedo station in Newport. But I would say that investigation into the history of naval record keeping is a big part of what I do now. Because we do have a lot of records that go back to the 30s or 40s, and we have a lot of records that need to be kept permanently and transferred to the National Archives, a lot of historical records, a lot of original research by our engineers and scientists. So yeah, I'm frequently investigating the history of the record keeping.
And can you briefly tell me how your experience as a librarian intersects with archival research?
I would say that they're related specializations. So librarians can choose to go down that path of being involved with archives and special collections. And that's a particular interest of mine, especially because there's so many technologies now that are being applied to draw out a lot of those previously hidden resources to make them accessible to the public. So, so the discipline of librarianship and being able to catalog and arrange and organize and provide information to researchers, it all ties in with what an archivist will do as well.
Have you researched what we've been calling Spring Avenue Extension and the Weekapaug neighborhood?
Yes, the Weekapaug area, yes.
When did you begin and when did you end this research?
I would say I began, it was probably late 2020 when the questions around Spring Avenue and rights of way in general were coming up in Westerly at council meetings. So I became very aware and very interested at that time. And to this day, I continue to research.
Okay, so it's ongoing.
Mhm.
And can you describe how you came to be involved in this research?
Well, right after COVID or during, it was still during COVID in 2020. I probably, like many other people, was working from home. We were isolated. I think a lot of us started to take more of an interest in our surrounding communities. Those of us who commuted out of our towns every day were suddenly more interested in our hometown surroundings and the issues that were happening. And so I became aware of, I live in South Kingstown, so not far from the shore. And I became aware of discussions coming up both in Narragansett and in Westerly and more broadly about issues of how do people access the post and where, and, what kinds of current questions or issues were coming up.
And how in particular were you led to look into the Spring Avenue extension issue?
Spring Avenue was being discussed fairly extensively. And I think it was also in coordination with Westerly's effort to produce its first harbor management plan. Harbor management plans, of course, have a required section on rights of ways. And so I became interested as rights of ways were being discussed. Spring Avenue in particular came up. And so I wanted to understand whatever I could about what is the status to date of Spring Avenue. And so I did research to get a sense of where everything stood with that had been discussed so far, at least in town.
And when was the first time you ever heard of the Coastal Resources Management Council?
It was probably July 2020. I had paid no attention. I really did not pay attention, and I took for granted our access to the shore in Rhode Island. And so it kind of tweaked my interest to hear that it wasn't always just status quo, that there were issues that came up with access. And so it didn't take long to realize that Coastal Resources Management Council is actually the agency that oversees rights of ways designations. And of course, I found their website and the maps that they have that identify rights of ways. And so there was a lot of information on their site, and that's really when I became familiar, and I imagined that nobody else was.
Without telling me any results of your research, please describe the methods and scope. And I refer to your research into the
Specific
matter
to
at
Spring
hand.
Avenue.
Yes.
Well, normally what I would do is frame the question, and first of all, I needed to know if I was current on everything that had been discussed about Spring Avenue, because I had heard that questions had come up in prior years, and so I searched through the Westerly Town Council minutes, at least the online minutes, and became familiar with how to search those, and realized I could actually go back to 2008 when there were a number of meetings and discussions around Spring Avenue. So I familiarized myself, read all the minutes. If there were attached documents, I read those. If there were recordings of meetings, I would watch those, and I found it fascinating. And the question came up again in 2020, and there was, clearly an interest, I don't remember the exact date, in having the town put forward to CRMC a request to review Spring Avenue for designation.
Okay, and thenceforward, what kind of archives did you go to? And can you give us some examples, some concrete
Okay.
examples?
Well, first I started by using, there's a guide that CRMC posted on its site, and they also actually offered a workshop. The guide it's the Citizens Guide to Assisting in the Right-of-Way Designation Process. And that looked like the really good framework to start with. This guide was directed at citizens. It described the enormous amount of research that could be required to assess any right of way. It described the types of research that might need to be done, land evidence records, assessors records, historical records, historical society visits. And so it seemed to present what to me was a perfect opportunity. It just struck me as I'm a librarian. I just, there's something about this that just grabs my interest. And so I systematically pursued the different research avenues that were recommended in the Citizens Guide, and then wherever things would sort of take me, as happens when you're looking at any locality, or you find more and more things as you go along.
Can you give us some specific concrete examples of places you visited, either personally or digitally?
So definitely the records of the town of Westerly would be of primary interest. And so I ascertained that Westerly actually maintains its town council minutes back to the late 1600s. And they have the land evidence records, which include the deeds and other land transactions in binders going, well, way back into the 1800s and earlier. And they also have plat maps, and they have some records in their public works area. So there was a lot to explore just in the Westerly Town Hall. But the first thing I would do in a case like this is I would try to talk to the town clerk, of course, which I did, just to ascertain what types of records are kept. I had actually found an inventory of town records that was produced in 1991. And that was an initiative of the Secretary of State.
Okay, we'll get to that,
Okay.
but can you focus on places that you visited, either virtually or in person?
Okay.
And we've got town, you've discussed that.
Okay.
Any other specific concrete places?
Okay. So the state of Rhode Island has the Secretary of State archives, and they have a number of their items digitized. And so there are general historical records there. Like you can actually find photos that were captured and preserved from the Economic Development Commission. So you will find the odd photograph of Weekapaug or other locations in those archives. But you can also search for things like corporate charters. They have a business search interface. So that's one location. I visited the Westerly Historical Society. I made an appointment with their archivist and spent a few hours there. And he had already identified a number of materials and made them available for review. There are a number of sources of maps, which were very important for helping with the research. So there are the plat maps, of course, of this area of Weekapaug, but there are also what are called Sanborn atlases. They are fire insurance maps that they're pretty amazing. If you're doing historical research, they actually show structures on lots in different sections of town, and Westerly actually has a Sanborn map. It's available through the Library of Congress, so I was able to get that online through the Library of Congress, and it's basically a 1921 base map of Weekapaug, both the west and the east side.
And what about the Westerly Public Library?
And the Westerly Public Library has a local history collection, and they have a local history librarian named Nina. And so of course I met with her. I would
Nina
always-
Wright, would that
Nina
be?
Wright, Nina Wright. Of course, I met with her and asked her to give me the scope of what they might have on Weekapod there. And they have a number of, I think you call them vertical files, a lot of folders with loose leaf items that might be historical brochures or photos or postcards. And they also have a number of books that are very specific to Weekapod.
I'm referring you to tab 1 in the green covered binders that all members of the subcommittee and all council have. Can you turn to tab 1 and tell me if you find there an exhibit labeled SC 1001? That would be SC 1001.
Yeah.
Okay, and can you tell us what that is, who made it, and when?
Okay, this is my compilation. So I am continuing to try to systematically identify sources that can be used for this right-of-way research process. Hopefully something that is of broader use than for just a particular right-of-way in Westerly, but I'm trying to compile any number of sources that a researcher could access. Of course, I started with the Coastal Resources Management Council because they do issue those guiding documents about how a citizen can help with this process.
But I see that it's 23 pages long, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and I see that there are redactions.
yes.
Now you made this when?
This was like spring 2024.
Okay. And why, in preparation for this hearing, did you redact it?
Yeah, because along the way, I had actually dropped in some images, like if I saw a photograph in a particular archive, I may have dropped it in here for convenience. And
Okay,
so if there were actual research products, and they might also be exhibits, I pulled this, so it's more strictly a source listing.
okay. You didn't want to include, you wouldn't want to get ahead of yourself and include the results in your listing of sources. Okay, so, and this is a summary that you yourself prepared, correct? And it was current as of the time it was made.
Correct.
Have you continued to work since then?
I continue to find other resources, or I can see some things that are updated.
Right.
From here.
And are there any sources that have become available, for instance, in digitized form since the time you made this list?
Well, just as an example, the digitized newspapers are extremely helpful compared to going through microfilms or microforms, which is what up until recently we had to do for Westerly at least. So I do have a section in here about digitized newspapers, and I think they came online only around 2020 for the Westerly Sun. And at the time, I know there are a lot of pages in the library. There is a section in here on newspapers. Okay, so page 19, I have a header there, newspapers, and so one collection is called Chronicling America, and that's a major collection of nationwide newspapers that have been digitized by the Library of Congress. And I listed some specific newspapers that can be found and searched in there that are from our regions: Norwich Bulletin, Wood River Advertiser, So there were some Rhode Island papers in there that were actually useful for this research. And then the Westerly Sun online archives. So at the time that I started doing this research, they had just started to offer 1893 to 1950 issues of the Westerly Sun. This was a project of the Westerly Library, and they had certain partners that they were working with. And so as far as anything that has changed, that collection continues to expand. So as they get funding, they add additional years to the start or the end range. And I believe they go back to maybe 1829 is still the start date, but they have gone, I'm sorry, 1893. I'm looking at the wrong one. They do go back to 1850 now. It's actually some other predecessor newspapers in Westerly that are included. And instead of going to 1950, they actually go up to 1958 now.
Okay, I would ask that this item, exhibit SC 1001 at tab 1 be admitted into evidence in full.
Objection. The entire document's hearsay, so it's created outside of this hearing. A lot of the descriptions still contain, a lot of the sources listed here still contain descriptions or summaries of discussions that were had with individuals who are not present to testify. We don't have an objection if the witness wants to keep this document to reference during her testimony in order to recall the source of certain documents, but we do object to it being evidence in this matter.
I think summaries are allowed, and this is a summary of the scope of this witness's research. I don't think that there's really much in the way of what I would call hearsay. It's just kind of descriptive of what this witness found. I mean, the witness has to, in a summary, you have to make some kind of entry to describe the thing. And I don't think there's anything in here that is particularly elaborate. It's basically just a listing. And I think it gives a fair sense of the scope of the research as of the spring of 2024.
She can testify to the scope of her research, just the document that she wrote summarizing sources and giving annotations can't come in as evidence. Testimony is fine, and she can keep the document to reference if she needs to reference a source. We'll agree to that.
So I'm going to go ahead. I see this as being descriptive. It's not substantive as far as material being discussed. I'm going to admit it in full.
Ms. Granaccia, were you here at these actual hearings of comment and testimony for all prior sessions in this case?
Yes, for the Spring Avenue hearings. Yes,
Did you hear Attorney Priestley testify?
yes.
Without reciting prior testimony, do you remember whether this topic of prior abandonment arose?
Yes, I do.
At my request, did you do research into that topic?
Yes, I did.
Please describe with specificity the steps that you took and the time period you covered.
Well, the task, as I understood it, was to determine whether there was ever an abandonment process for Spring Avenue or Spring Avenue Extension either. And so really the only way to do that thoroughly was to go through the town council records, decade by decade, page by page, and that's what I did. And just to be sure that that's where I would actually see records of abandonment, I verified that, yes, other abandonments were brought up to the town council, so I would expect to find them mentioned in the minutes. So I went through from 1920 right up to the current. So using the bound volumes, which are in the lower level of the town hall. I just went volume by volume, right through all the decades. And it was a major effort to go through all those years. But I went through the bound volumes up to the mid 1970s, and the records are online after that, the town council minutes. So I thoroughly searched the online records for those later years and can confirm that there's no record of abandonment. I also searched the online newspapers because if there's going to be an abandonment, there would generally be a town notice posted in the newspaper.
Objection to this line of questioning. The witness is describing documents. The best evidence rule requires that those documents be produced here for the fact finder to look at and follow for themselves.
Actually,
Not for somebody to sit and summarize. You have to read them.
actually, the witness is not describing documents, he's describing the absence of documents. He's finding that there was no entry. So if there was an entry of an abandonment with regard to Spring Avenue extension, the best evidence rule would say that she should bring it in. But what she's saying is that there was no such thing. So you can't bring in the absence of a document. You can only testify to it.
She's testifying as to what the documents say or don't say.
I'll allow Attorney Rubin to continue with this line of questioning.
Now you mentioned going volume by volume. Did you go page by page?
Yeah,
Okay.
page by page.
And at what, how current is that research?
Probably sometime in 2024. Well, the going through the volumes, I think I did that in 2024 or 2025.
What I'm referring to, let me stop you, is to what dates is your research current?
Oh, okay. I continue to check to follow the town council, and so I have not seen any announcement of abandonment proceedings for Spring Avenue through current.
And so if I can just summarize, you went through the minutes page by page from 1920 through sometime in the early 70s.
The printed volumes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then thereafter digitally.
The online.
Right. And there was no record of an abandonment.
No.
Same objection.
Noted.
Now, do you recall testimony, and I'm not going to ask you any details or cite any specifics, but do you recall any testimony regarding a deed of Upper Spring Avenue in February of 1939? You might recall it as Exhibit J, the deed to the town.
I'm familiar with the deed.
Okay.
At the top.
Now, without reciting prior testimony, do you remember whether the topic of prior pre-acceptance of that deed by the town council arose?
Objection vague. What is pre-acceptance?
Attorney Rubin, if you could clarify.
I believe that the record will reflect that I asked Mr. Priestley whether it would be of interest or relevant if there had been under Section 7 of the 1923 statute, as opposed to Sections 1 through 6. Under Section 7, whether there was any relevance as to pre-authorization by the town council of the deeding of a roadbed such as Upper Spring Avenue. And I believe that the gist of his testimony, and I'm trying to be fair here, was that he had not looked at himself, but it would be of some relevance to determine how the town had acted vis-a-vis the 1920 plat. I mean, I could elaborate just a teeny bit. Essentially, under Section 7, there's just two means that you could do a deed of Upper Spring Avenue. One was for there to be pre-authorization, or any road bed in Westerly, an outright deed. One would be to there being an outright deeding can only take place if there had been pre-authorization, or if it acts as a pre-authorization, for there to be a determination, essentially by the clerk implicitly, that the roadbed that was being deeded coincided with a dedicatory plat. So this goes to whether the 1920 plat was considered to be a dedicatory plat, because if there were no pre-authorization, then under Section 7, if you noodle this through, then it must have been a determination that the 1920 plat was an offer of dedication.
Objection, again, Mr. Rubin now is re-testifying for Mr. Priestley and trying to put that in the record as something that Ms. Guarnacci is going to double up on and testify about as well. If Mr. Rubin has testimony from a prior proceeding, he should have a transcript of that proceeding and read the testimony so that we all know exactly what it was. I'm not going to accept Mr. Rubin's recitation about what happened at a proceeding multiple months ago. And the inquiry to the witness about pre-acceptance was the word he used. The witness is not a title expert. She can't opine on that.
So she can say what she saw, and all, I'm not going to ask for her rendition of the statute. We can argue that later. The pieces have to fit together, and that's why we have final briefing and hopefully final argument in a case this complex. But the point here is that the witness went, she looked, she saw, she knows what she saw, she knows what she didn't see.
So, Attorney Rubin, I do agree with you. However, I do think there needs to be a little bit more foundation for her to answer the question on pre-authorization. So if you could lay more foundation to, because I think she can testify as to what she saw, but
Right.
I think it needs to be clear, well, what is the thing that she's looking for,
Right.
or the thing that she saw. So I think if you lay more foundation in this case, that might be.
What was your understanding of what you were looking for in this project that I asked you to do?
I made sure to get clarification on that, and to actually understand what I was seeing in the town council minutes. So there would be instances where somebody would appear at town council and present a deed, and the town might formally accept that deed or not accept that deed. And so
Are you referring to deeds to road beds?
for deeds to roads, yes,
Right.
and so I did see certain instances where such deeds were, there was a petition for the deed to be accepted by the town, and where that in fact happened. And so so I had something, I knew what to look for and what form it would appear in the minutes if there was a pre-acceptance transaction in the town council meeting. And so I looked through all the minutes for 1938 and 1939, and
why those particular years? And why
because those were the years around that particular deed. And if we wanted to know whether there was that petition to the town within a certain time frame after the hurricane, and right up until, later in 1939. I just went through both years.
Did you go page by page?
I did page by page, and I actually noted anything that might seem of that nature of being a petition for acceptance of a deed, and I captured that information and just verified with you that I was looking for the right thing.
What did you find with respect to Upper Spring Avenue?
I didn't find any instance of a petition or any way this coming up to the town council as a presentation of a deed for acceptance.
And excuse the redundancy, but what did you find with respect or in anticipation of the deed of late January, early February 1939 has been referred to as Exhibit J?
You're talking about the deed again?
Yes,
What did I find?
Right.
I didn't find any evidence of the pre-acceptance that you're talking about, if that's the question.
well, let me turn to particular documents that you did find in particular time periods. Ms. Carnaccio, first, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions concerning the several years forming the time period before, during, and after the hurricane of 38. Then, second, I'm going to rewind backwards in time to the late 1800s and early 1900s. And then, third, I'm going to leapfrog forward in time to the mid and late 20th century in the current time period. Is that okay?
I'll do my best.
All right. All right. I'm going to ask you to turn to the item at tab 2, which is SC 1002. Without telling me what that is, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And asking you, showing you this placard that is situated near you. Would you compare that to Exhibit SC 1002 at tab 2?
Yes, it's an enlargement of that photograph.
Okay. And how is it that you recognize this?
This photo actually appears in at least 2 publications that were in the local history collection at the Westerly Library.
Okay, and what were those publications?
If you don't mind, I just want to cite properly.
You may resort to our sources. Okay, go ahead.
So there is a book called The Wonderful World of Weekapaug, published by the Weekapaug Foundation for Conservation in 2004. And this photo appears on page 53 of that book. And there's another book called A Pictorial History of Weekapaug, Rhode Island, published by the Udder Company in 1976. And that's actually got a double-page spread of that same image.
Is there any other publisher other than Udder of that particular last book that you mentioned?
The Pictorial History, it's dated 1976, and there's end matter material with acknowledgements, and on the back cover, there's the logo for the Weekapaug Fire District, and the acknowledgements list an extensive number of participants from Weekapaug in the production of that book.
If you know, or what is this item?
So this item it's an aerial photograph. I've learned that the term to use is oblique. It's oblique because it's taken at an angle, not directly overhead looking down. And it's looking from the southeast direction towards Weekapaug Point, which has also been known historically as Noise Neck. So the point with the large cottages around it. Do you want me to?
What about the breachway, the Weekapaug breachway?
Objection, the witness has admitted multiple times that she's not an expert in aerial photography.
Rudy Rubin?
I think first you can look at a photograph if it's clear enough as to a location. I mean, and identify that location. I could ask the witness, are you generally familiar with the topography of the Weekapaug area?
Yes.
With that, I would say that, we're not asking for some kind of analysis of the time of day or the shadows or what tide it was or what season of the year it was. We're just asking for the general geography.
Attorney Forsythe?
And if on behalf of the town of Westerly, I would like to join in the response and add that just a few moments ago, Weekapaug Fire District was asking one of the town's witnesses to identify from an aerial photograph. And so it's essentially in the same nature that the witness sees what they see. So we're not asking them for any of the expert techniques used in making the photograph. We're not asking for photographic expertise. We're just asking for a description. And so I would join in the response and remind the committee that we just did this with a couple of other witnesses.
The witness may answer.
I think the answer was already given. Objection came after, I think.
That sounds right.
Right, yeah. But I was gonna ask the witness, what about the Weekapaug Breachway?
Whether it's visible, yes, in the far northwest corner of the photo.
Do you have a pointer? Let me help you.
It is working, but I'm not seeing it point.
We'll help you with a pointer in a moment or two. Okay. Do you recall this photo being mentioned during opening statements?
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes. It was featured during opening statements, and I know the path that's in the lower right here was pointed out, and I was sort of given the nickname of the shining path.
Okay, just trying to identify it. Is there a date embedded in the photo?
No, not embedded in it.
Okay. Without telling me your result, were you able to establish a date for this photo?
A general range.
Okay.
Objection.
Basis?
It testified to a range of a photo that's been taken from a book, and the book's not present here for us all to look at. Book has a copyright, and the photograph likely had text beneath it or on top of it or other descriptors that have been omitted from this.
I actually.
So this is just what's been offered here as exhibit SC 1002 is simply a screenshot of an image from a larger book that's been represented as if it's somehow endorsed by the fire district without any proof here in the record of that.
There's been massive discovery in this case. Everything's been linked to. We provided a Dropbox amongst other sources, and in that Dropbox were all kinds of links that would include the entire book, the publication data of that book, and the thing is this we're getting to the authenticity of this. Now, I do feel I should lay a date for it. I have to establish it for 20 years old, and we're going to get to that. And I want to establish what the date range is. You have to give an approximation of it. I don't think you have to bring the whole book in. If it would somehow meet the rules necessary, I mean, we're going to have a voluminous record. We start bringing in books.
Attorney Rubin, I don't think that's necessary. The witness may answer if she ever has not.
So I did say that I could get this within a particular date range.
Okay. And without telling us what date you established, can you explain your methodology for going about that? While you're doing that, I'm going to get a pointer for you. Okay.
After looking at a lot of Weekapaug materials and being familiar with some of the major historical events, including the 1938 hurricane, the first thing I would be looking for if it were in the field of view is whether the Weekapaug Inn in its original location, which was directly on the beach. If that's within view, then I would know immediately that that photo predates the 1938 hurricane. If I saw the Weekapaug Inn up on the peninsula where it was rebuilt after the hurricane, I would then know it was post 1939 construction of the inn. So without that landmark appearing in here, I would.
If a landmark doesn't appear, what do you mean by that?
What I mean is if that particular feature, the Weekapaug Inn, is not visible in the frame of view.
You mean the field of view?
Yeah, and then I would start looking for other features or structures that are in the photo. And determine whether what year some of these structures may have been built, and if they appear in here, then I know the photo post dates those structures.
Okay, and at this point, if I may approach the witness, I'll hand her a pointer, hopefully a working one. See that? Points out this way, this is the button. Are you having any success with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you point to a structure that you use that technique with?
Most especially this cottage right here.
Okay, and can you describe that cottage, starting maybe with the roof line?
Well, it has sort of the barn, or I guess what we're calling the gambrel, Dutch style roof on it. And it's a couple of stories.
And I think that, do you see a path to the beach on this picture?
Yes, to the east of the gambrel.
Okay. So the Gambrel Cottage is to the west?
Right.
Okay. If I can just have a moment, I'm gonna get another placard. If I can ask you to turn to the next tab, which I believe is tab 3, and draw your attention to exhibit SC 1003, and then ask you if you, without telling us what it is, whether you recognize 1003 and whether the placard corresponds.
Yeah.
And how is it that you recognize this?
I actually located this during my research in a couple of places.
Can you start by telling us one of those places or the most definitive place?
Well, it's actually published in the Westerly Sun, and if I can give you the citation, it's from the October 16th, 1938 issue of the Westerly Sun. And this particular instance isn't from the digitized version of the Sun, but this is a better, clearer photo. And this was actually in the scrapbooks of the Westerly local collections at the Westerly Library.
But you recognize this photo as as corresponding with what you observed in the digitized Westerly
Yes.
Sun? Okay. What is it?
So the way it's described, it's clearly an image of a number of cottages and they appear to have damage from the hurricane with the Weekapaug Inn in the distance. And so the description in the caption, cottages shown slumping on the beach, and then it gives them in sequence by the owner. So so from the left, we have the Seed Cottage, the Hoare Cottage, the Prosser Cottage, and the Eli Cottage. And then we see the broken down inn in the distance.
The inn is in a state of damage
Yeah.
from the hurricane. Okay, so which of those Seed, Hoare, Prosser, Eli corresponds with the gambrel roof line?
But that would be the one that is identified in the caption as Hoare, and that is the second house in from the left.
And that would, for the
Objection, we don't have any evidence in the record about the Hoars being the owners of that particular gambrel roof house at this time.
we're leading up to that. Oh, excuse me.
This also appears to be another screenshot of a larger newspaper article, where the entire article should be reproduced here.
Attorney Rubin.
Just for the stenographer's sake, before I forget, it's HOAR is that name. But again, all the broad streets, all these citations have been given in discovery many times over. Obviously, things were provided 7 days in advance. The entire context is available. We're focusing on this photo because it says the evidence. We're leading up to establishing the ownership of that particular house and when that house was constructed. It's obviously it's pieces of a puzzle. We got to start someplace.
We should do that before we have the witness testifying as to who owns a particular house in a grainy newspaper photo that's incomplete.
Well, I think the witness is testifying as to what it says, and what it says comes in, and then we're going to lead up to. She's not testifying who owned it. She said this is what it says that who owned it. I think, which I think is some evidence of who owned it because it's an ancient document.
So she can continue, it goes to the weight of the evidence, and it's an idea of what her understanding is of this photo. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I mean, this is one of many pieces of evidence that we're going to hear to date the date of that previous photo. So, does it have a huge amount of weight in and of itself? Would a title conveyancer rely on this reference to prove title? Of course not. But as pieces of a puzzle that is about to unfold, I think that it does come in for the truth of the matter. Although I admit that the quantity of this standing alone would be rather small. But we put it together with the other pieces that are about to unfold and that I'm about to show you, and the witness is about to show you, I think it does amount to proof. But I do believe it comes into the truth because it's an ancient document. Back then in 1939, they were contemplating a CRMC proceeding 85 years later or 86 years later.
Attorney Rubin, you may proceed.
Yeah. By the way, in fairness, is there an error in the caption?
Yes, so there's that fragment at the start of the caption. It just says to the east of Weekapaug Inn. But clearly the Weekapaug Inn is over to the east and we're looking at cottages to the west.
I object further to the image then, as we're now learning that it's got language in it that's wrong. So how are we to take the recitation of who owns what parcel as being true when the newspaper couldn't even get correct east versus west?
Because it's part of a larger picture if I'm allowed to go forward.
Attorney Rubin, you can continue.
Take a moment. I'm going to get another placard and ask the witness to turn to tab 4. Which is SC 1004. And you recognize what is that tab 4, otherwise known as SC 1004.
Yes, I do.
And can you compare that to what I am putting on this placard here for everybody to view?
So SC 1004 aligns with that larger photo on the right.
Okay, on the right of the placard. Okay. And what is and how is it that you recognize that?
What is that? How did I come across?
Yes,
it?
how'd you come across it?
So this is actually one of the files in the Westerly local history collection. So it's one of the loose items that they have in their vertical files for Weekapog.
Okay. And asking and what is your understanding of what it purports to depict?
It doesn't have a date on it, but it depicts, well, by the title, Summer Homes at Weekapog, Rhode Island. And then it gives photographs of a number of them, and in the captions, it identifies who the owners are.
Okay, and then what is if you can turn to tab 5, which is SC 1005. Without telling me what that is, do you recognize that? And does it correspond with anything on the placard?
Yes, so it's basically a call out of a portion of that larger brochure, so it's the image that's in the middle section of the brochure enlarged.
Okay, and would you compare the two images on the placard?
Compare the images.
The one to the other, there's one that's an enlargement and one that's a whole
The
brochure.
one on the left.
Okay.
Is the enlargement, yeah.
Excuse me, that was a redundant question. And can you tell us how this photo fits into your research?
Well, this identifies the Gambrel cottage in the enlarged photo. It says foreground. The foreground house depicted in this photo as belonging to Mr. and Mrs. David B. Hoare of Springfield, Mass.
And now that you have that name, David B. Hoare, how does that fit into your other research?
Well, it certainly lets me cross-reference other records, such as the land evidence records, and to look up any transactions by the Hoare family to determine whether they actually had a cottage on a lot.
Okay. And turning to the item at tab 6, which is SC 1006, without telling me what that is, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And how is it that you recognize that?
Because I looked up the deeds and land evidence records for most of the structures around the point.
And did you look up the name of David B. Hoare?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your understanding of what exhibit 6 is, or tab 6?
So
exhibit 1006.
It's a conveyance or deed dated January 17th, 1929, between Gertrude L. Dowd and David B. Hoare and Marion C. Hoare. So Gertrude Dowd was the grantor, and David Hoare and Marion Hoare were the grantees.
And what lot does it pertain to?
It pertains to lot 17.
Okay, and now moving along, turning to the item at tab 7, which is SC 1007. Without telling me what that is, do you recognize that?
Yeah,
Okay. Um. And uh. And how is it that you recognize that?
this is also in the land evidence, please.
Okay.
Objection on 1007, it doesn't have a book number that I can see.
Do you know the,
I,
is in your research notes?
I have that in my notes.
Okay.
It's, book 53, page 537.
And that's the West,
Excuse me, book, payment number five.
Book 53, page 537.
and just reciting facts that are stated there, what is this second instrument in the land evidence records?
It's a release of a lien that was placed by the Hiscox Company against the Hoare property, for construction costs.
Okay. And what lot is that?
So it's referencing the deed from Gertrude Dowd to David and Marion Hoare that we looked at previously. And so when we look at that deed, we see, when we cross-reference
Let's
that,
speak it to the mic if you would.
when we cross-reference the deed that is referred to in this lien, that is the deed that is to Marion and David Hoare for lot 17.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you to get up from your seat, use your pointer, the one that I just gave you, walk over to the back placard and highlight lot 17 for the members.
Oh, I brought the wrong pointer.
Yeah, you might have to bring the placard forward to the members. It's pretty light, so I think you can carry it.
So lot 17 is this one right here.
And can you show Mr. Forsythe as well? Okay. And the placard that you're holding right now, that's the 1920 plaque.
Yes, it is.
I try to see that. So, yeah, right, and that's I believe that we can all take notice that was joint exhibit I. Okay, you can put that back on the board. Easel. Um. Okay. Now I'd like you to and by the way, the date of that deed was of that last instrument, the one that was the release of lien, was what year?
It was recorded on July 17th, 1930.
Okay. Now turning to tab 8, which is SC 1008, without telling me what that is, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And could you compare, again, now without telling me what it is, could you compare that to this placard that I'm just about to post right now? I'm just about to go right now.
That's a match. That's in the binder.
Okay. And so, how is it that you recognize this item, that is, SC 1008 at tab 8?
I located this item in the town hall records.
What part of town hall?
So I learned from the assessor and the town clerk that there might be historical records up in the attic. And I I was able to make an appointment and get assistance getting these materials, and there were boxes up there of what's called here real estate cards. And they basically are records showing what's been assessed for land and improvements.
And if you could move a little closer to the mic or the mic a little closer to you.
So these cards were organized by property owner name. And so I did find this one for Before Property.
And it has the name of David V and Marion Orr on it.
Yes.
Okay. And does it refer at any point to lot 17?
Yes, it does.
Right.
So over on the right hand top corner, the second label there is original plat. And there it says Weekapaug Beach. So the Weekapaug Beach plat and the original lot number, which is 17.
And I also see it has another lot number. Just give us your understanding of what that other lot
So-
number signifies.
So when the town developed its townwide assessor plats, the town had its own numbering system for those, and that's what's indicated at assessor's plat number and lot number.
And what's your understanding of what that arc is? Is there an illustration there?
Yes, there is.
Okay, what's your understanding of what that arc is to the right of the lot, or that is to the
Objection, the
lot?
witness is not a title expert, nor is she a surveyor. Plus, this document has hearsay with the top of it.
So there probably should be some more foundation for this to have her talk about that.
Can you go, I'm gonna ask you to look more closely at the what was exhibit I believe, which is the 1920 plat. You're familiar with this 1920 plat?
Yeah.
You understand that it was admitted as exhibit I?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to flash this thing out. Using your pointer, can you compare the features on this item that we've been studying, which is 1008, otherwise known as tab 8, to the depictions on this plat from 1920, which is exhibit I?
Same objection, not a surveyor.
So
So I'm gonna allow it just because I think she can testify as to a comparison between these two.
So they're using the assessor's lot number on here, but we know that corresponds to the Weekapaug Beach plat, lot 17. So it's basically the same shape as lot 17 here.
I'm gonna lift this up a little bit.
And it has the parcel that we've been calling Spring Avenue Extension to the right. And this has a drawing of an arc to the right of the lot.
Thank you. Okay, and now turning to item at tab 9, which is SC 1009. Without telling me what that is, do you recognize that?
Yeah.
And I'm going to catch up to you in a moment while I'm going to find the pertinent placard, but let me just ask you, how is it that you recognize this item?
Because I found this while searching the archives of the Westerly Sun.
And can you tell us what it is?
It's an article, no. that gives updates for the Weekapog area. And it includes news about cottage construction. Do you want me to read the actual
If you would, please read
relevant section? So there's a header, a subheader that says to be ready June 10th. And it says on the lot next to Edward G. Seed's new cottage, David Hoare of Springfield, Mass. Is having a Dutch colonial cottage built containing 8 rooms and 3 baths. Henry Larson is the contractor. Mr. Hoare expects to take occupancy June 10th, and this is dated June 6, 1930.
So, turning back to, and by the way, it mentions, it uses the phrase Dutch colonial.
Yes.
Okay. And, how does this article, fit into your research?
Well, it tells me that as of June or July, we have the construction lien release dated July, I believe. So at least by July 1930, we'd expect that there would have been a structure on the lot that was owned by the Hoares, lot 17 by that time frame.
Okay. So far, based on what we have discussed at this point in your testimony, what do you know about the time frame of the photo that is the subject of this discussion, namely SC 1002? And I'll approach so that I can refer back to that.
So I would say that this photo dates at least after the construction of the Hoare cottage on lot 17. So it would date after July 1930 at least.
Okay, and turning to tab 10, which is exhibit SC 1010.
Attorney Rubin, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just gonna note it's 8:57, so we're gonna have to wrap up very shortly. I don't want to impede your questioning if this is coming to a close, but if you could find a natural point to conclude this portion of Ms. Cornacchia's testimony.
Yeah, if I could just go a teeny bit further, I think we'll get to that point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How is it that you recognize this item?
Again, I would have come across this when searching the land records.
Okay, and this item SC 1010 or SC 1010. What is this item?
Well, I think we're looking specifically down in the center of the page where a new transaction begins. And it is dated March 20th, 1937. And it's a transfer of property from the Weekapog Beach Company to Roger D. Prosser.
And what lot does it purport to be?
And it describes it as lot number 18 on the map of Weekapog Beach Company.
Okay, and just very quickly, can you point out lot 18 on the 1920 plat, which is exhibit I? Try to stand so I don't get anybody's way.
So it is right here.
Okay, and where is that in relation to what we've been talking about as the Spring Avenue extension?
It's directly to the east. It's so lot 18 is bounded on the west.
And would you point out the area on exhibit 2 that is to the east of the path that you referred to on exhibit?
Objection. Witness can testify about how she found records, possibly, where she found them, but she's not qualified to testify about where on a photograph certain features would be based on where they appear on a plat map or placard or other land evidence record card. She's just not.
So Attorney Rubin, I agree with Attorney Farside here, but I think that if a further, if you explore this line of questioning a little bit further, that may be appropriate.
Okay. That would be, I'm gonna ask the witness to turn to, exhibit 1011. And, what is that item?
Objection 1011 has more hearsay at the top.
It has a caption which is Westerly's son, 22nd of March, 1937, page 9, last column. It's not subjective, it's not tendentious, it's not argumentative, it's not polemical. And I think it would be convenient for the subcommittee. I also say that this objection goes to form, not to any like hearsay, authenticity, or any kind of substantive problem or foundational problem with the exhibit. If there was a problem with the form, we could have rectified it beforehand. These exhibits were distributed over a week ago. So it's just a routine matter.
I don't recognize an exception in the hearsay rules for routine matters. It's got hearsay at the top of it.
I believe it's her recorded recollection of what it is. It's just simply a guidance that's of assistance to this committee as to where this is. I mean, I did provide you with a magnifying glass in the front of each of your binder, but I'm hoping that you don't have to use it quite so much. So including broadsheets with fine print and grainy residue of the microfiche or digitization process is not going to get this subcommittee anywhere.
Could there be some questioning of the witness regarding how that title came about?
Yeah. How did the title come about?
When I found this particular article, I would have noted the page and the column that it appeared on. And the title is actually taken from the subtitle right in the article itself in the first column there.
Okay.
To further my objection, the date appears nowhere on this newspaper article.
Everything was provided in discovery. Everything was provided a week in advance, at least. In fact, or 7 business days in advance, I should say. I think it's really inefficient for us to be, when the witness can testify as to the date of the article, for us to be quarreling over what is really just an innocent and non-polemical guidance as to the location of this for the convenience of the subcommittee.
So I actually tend to agree with both of you, but I think for the sake of the record, perhaps the witness should be questioned on that date.
Okay. And what was the date of this article?
It was March 22nd, 1937.
And that was the date of the Westerly Sun that you looked at
Correct.
on digitized records. And what page was it on?
This was on page 9,
What column?
columns 5 through 8.
Thank you. At this point, I've been a little bit remiss because I haven't actually moved for the admission of these subsidiary exhibits. So I'm not going to move for the admission of exhibit 2 yet. That's premature. But I would like to move to the extent that I have not for the admission of 3 through 11 inclusive.
On exhibit 3, we have an objection insofar as this is another screenshot selected to tell a particular narrative, not the full text provided on 1004. Pardon me while I turn my binder. Again, screenshot, the book or other publication should be provided for the fact finder to see and evaluate. On number 5, same objection and has hearsay at the top of it. Number 8 also has hearsay. Number 9 also appears to be an incomplete screenshot and has hearsay. Number 10 also appears to be missing a book number. And 11, as we've discussed, has hearsay and has a red marking of some type on it. And lacks a date in the text of the one.
I think we've covered most of this, but I would say that one of the items, which is the tax card, which is sitting down there at the foot of the easel, which I believe was tab 8, or in other words, 1008, is a public record of the town of Westerly. So I would add that. You know, the rest of this is just really, I think, not conducive to an efficient hearing.
Understood. So here's the thing. We've had arguments on both sides on pretty much every one of these exhibits. It's in the record, and the subcommittee can take those arguments and assess the weight of each of these as full exhibits. But the arguments can be assessed by the subcommittee, and it goes to the weight of these exhibits and the value that they're going to provide to the process. But they'll be admitted.
They'll be admitted. Thank you. So moving along to
Attorney Rubin, I just know that it's 9:05. I think we have to wrap up. But I think this may be a appropriate time
very good
to do so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Monche. You step down for tonight. We'll see you next time.
Leah, you said we do not have a next hearing. What do we anticipate at the next, Attorney Rubin? What do we anticipate happening at the next hearing? Obviously, you're more
I
questioning.
think we're gonna have a lot from Ms. Carnaccio.
Pretty much the whole
I
next
think
hearing.
so. Yeah,
Okay.
I can turn that back on. I'm sorry, I put my mic off. As I said, I believe that it will be taken up by Ms. Carnaccio's testimony.
Okay. Leah, what do we have for potentials?
See what the senior center has available normally for June, not right. Mondays and Tuesdays and a few Thursdays were generally the best.
So we do have June 30th already set aside,
We do
correct?
not. We originally did, and the senior center is not available that day. You cannot do Monday. Okay, so Tuesdays and Thursdays are.
Do you want to go just confirm?
I will go confirm.
I know it's not for June 30th, but I don't have that.
That's bad.
What do you think?
You're set. Thank you. Those people are trying to match.
So I hope to take maybe the whole next hearing. Direct examination for.
Seventh and July 21st.
Why something from London?
Tuesday.
July 7th is gonna be a problem for
Yeah.
our office.
I have two things that I.
I had recalled that Mondays, Tuesdays were okay, our Wednesdays are 21st.
July
But
one,
it has a Wednesday there.
What's the other,
21st.
I'm gonna be in Chicago. That week. So I stopped, yeah. Have a lot of travel.
is that certain?
Not been really saying Chicago, then New York.
I'd have to consult with the witness, both of those dates work for me, but I just have to consult with the witness if I can.
Wednesdays are not an option. So those are our.
July 7th and July 21st.
21st. Neither of those work for you, Mark?
Uh,
So the 21st, I'm in Chicago, that absolutely doesn't work for me.
I mean, we could probably do the 7th, it's just always tight, for the first Tuesday of the month for us. But
Good.
we could schedule it and then we'll have someone, we'll figure it out.
I could make that work. I could move, but yeah, let's have it back.
That's the hard. The town of Westerly is available for dates.
So,
For you guys?
well, I know I can't do it, and I don't know if Becky will be able to do it, so. Or Cindy, I'm not sure, Cindy doesn't like on me.
All right, that's another complicating
You
factor.
don't have too many that are willing to drive down here. So she's not available, so
It might be, yeah.
No, you
I don't- I can see what it is.
maybe she'll get somebody. Yeah.
Are there any other Thursdays?
Yeah.
No good.
Who will they, Thursday?
He says
Thursday.
Tuesdays are better than Thursdays.
Okay. It makes sense. I mean, it's a smaller crowd, so the acoustics might not be a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Should we, circle back on it?
Yeah. We ever.
And what if is this their system or our system? If we bring that to town hall?
Yes, he's my phone.
Alright, so you'll just.
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about the 7th, but it's might be probably it's not for and yeah, we only have these 2 dates available here, so we might have more. So I could try.
So we won't put it down for a date certain right now. Leah will check another venue. To see what they have for availability. It may open up some more dates for us.
Yeah, let's go.
As far as the 7th, let's not write it in, but maybe throw it out there and maybe you can get someone to cover. I can move something. Maybe that's still kind of work on the 7th here possibly.
All right.
All right.
All right, so we'll just have like a tentative maybe for the 7th, and then if I need some other dates that are possible,
Clear.
I'll circulate them.
Everybody keeps it clear. I will keep it clear.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Stan.
Thank
or